Greetings. This is TK Trav, aka Travis Magus, here with LVX777. Today we're going to continue our fantastic book study on the mystical Qabalah written by Dion Fortune. Last week, or I should say a couple days ago, we covered chapter 15 about Kether, the crown, the undifferentiated consciousness that has made its way into existence. Now we're going to talk about the first evolute of Kether, known as Chokmah, the masculine principle of the divine. So get your books ready, your highlighters, unicorn pens, all that good stuff. Let's dive into the Qabalah. Peace and greetings to everyone who is present. Let's see what we got here. Yes, everything looks good. Let me know if the sound is good. It should be good. You don't hear a slight echo or anything, do you? Nah. Okay, should be good to go. The dreaded slight echo, of course. Is it true? Is there really a slight echo? I need a second opinion. Perhaps if I connect my headphones, that will no longer be a problem. Okay, well, while I get that situated. There it is. Yeah. Okay, so peace and greetings to everybody. I am Ku, peace. Des M. Walk, peace and greetings. J. Balhale, peace. Sunshine Chick, always great to see you. Peace, great evening. The Mental Goddess, peace. Janae O. Whoa, peace and greetings. Ready for this live stream study. 9 Volta, peace. All right, so the echo's gone, right? AZW, peace, and much gratitude. Thank you so very much. Dr. Zero Zyron, free Magic Secrets show. Peace and greetings. I enjoyed your podcast episode yesterday. Okay, no echo. Great. Let's dive right into chapter 16, Chokmah, the masculine principle of the divine. All right. Be still, my beating heart. All right, so who went over Kether and who remembers some of the correspondences? Because it's good to do so as we explore more of this tree. You're going to find how these correspondences connect and correlate and corroborate and corroborate. Cosmic Traveler, peace. All right. And as always, thank you for your continued support. If you'd like to shoot me a donation, you can do so by the link posted on my Cash App. Or if you don't have Cash App, PayPal works too. It's a beautiful day. All right, chapter 16, Chokmah, the second Sephiroth. I might just change it to my phone microphone. That'd be a lot easier. Fuck it, we're gonna do that. It's more comfortable. Testing. How's the sound here? It shouldn't be terrible, but honestly, I think I'm gonna do it this way. we're gonna be here for a few hours, might as well get comfortable, right? Kevin Wise, peace, peace. All right, I don't see any complaints, so let's go. Chapter 16, Chokmah, the second Sephiroth. Title, Chokmah, wisdom, right? The Hebrew spelling is Cheth, Kaf, Mem, Hey. Magical image, right? Because remember, each of the Sephiroth have a magical image, and what she said was, it's best to meditate on these images. This is probably the most direct way to get in contact with its power, right? So the magical image of Chokmah is a bearded male figure, a bearded male figure. Situation on the tree, at the head of the pillar of mercy in the supernal triangle, right? So if you're looking at a picture of the tree of life, this is going to be the Sephiroth in the top right corner, traditionally colored gray, silver. Yetziratic text. The second path is called the illuminating intelligence. It is the crown of creation, the splendor of unity, equaling it. It is exalted above every head and is named by Kabbalists the second glory. And that would make sense, right? Because I know as we're reading that, you're probably thinking, I thought Kether was the crown. I thought Kether was the crown of creation, right? But let's take a visit real quick back to what she said in the Yetziratic text about Kether. So the Yetziratic text provides very precise clues. Look at what it says for Kether. Remember, the first path is called the admirable or hidden intelligence because it is the light giving the power, right? It is the light giving the power of comprehension of the first principle, which hath no beginning. And this is the part, it is the primal glory because no created being can attain to its essence. So we're talking about something here that doesn't exist in the manifest dimension, right? If anything, it's more of a, a continually unfolding idea. But when we get to Chokmah, we're talking about manifestation. So it's the crown of creation, right? The crown of creation. It is exalted above every head and is named by Kabbalists the second glory. J. Baldhale, thank you very much. I appreciate that. Titles given to Chokmah: Power of Yetzirah, Av Abba, the Supernal Father, Tetragrammaton, Yod of Tetragrammaton. The God name, Jehovah. The Archangel, Raziel, secret or herald of God. How many people have ever heard of Raziel or ever worked with Raziel? Show of hands. Who's ever worked with any of these archangels or who's attempted to work with Raziel? If you're serious about your angel work, I think that a particular ritual should be loud and clear on the tip of your tongue. Nobody? Okay, well, Damon Brand wrote a book called Angels of Magic, the 72 Angels of Magic. And chief of the angels that you're going to work with in that book are Raziel. Now, that's not the only text or set of rituals that work with Raziel, but that's probably the most popular one. Um, Raziel is often contacted as the ambassador for the rest of the angels because mighty bold of you to think you're going to connect with Metatron. But anyways, yeah, if you are someone who's interested in archangel magic, working with angels, 72 Angels of Magic is a text by Damon Brand. It's easy to use. It definitely works if you work it, and that's where I got my first experiences with Raziel and the Shimham Mephrosh angels. I got the book over there, but I started to get comfortable. I'm not going over there. But yeah, Raziel. Order of angels that he's working with, the Ophanim, wheels. Now, see, this is really interesting because you've seen these memes of biblically accurate angels, right? Well, these are specifically what you're seeing when you see those memes. because they're the type of angels that are like a bunch of rings with eyeballs all over them. Well, these are people attempting to meme the Ophanim, right? And you'll hear about these in the Bible. These are the ones specifically that you see when people draw biblically accurate angels. So now you can go to your muggle friends and impress them with that bit of knowledge. Sunshine Chick, thank you so very much. I appreciate you. Absolutely going to a good cause. Thank you. Hmm. Pablo X9, peace, peace. Pablo says wholeness and compassion, standing on principle. Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Shout out to my Gnosis. Cosmic Traveler says the four archangels gave me a mantra a couple years ago in my dreams. Been doing it since. Nice, nice, nice. Yeah, man. I'm telling you, sometimes you get some very relevant downloads through your dreams. Speaking of the devil, this guy pops up. Peace, peace, my Gnosis. Yeah, speaking of dreams and paying attention to your dreams, if you haven't watched my live stream that I just did earlier this morning, I highly go watch it. Don't waste any time. Watch it tonight. Watch it soon. It's about the 1212 portal that's open. Now, typically, I call that kind of thing a load of poppycock, but I did my research kabbalistically, and I show you what I did. You're gonna see these eight keys and these four themes that are running through these next 7 days, basically, all the way to the winter equinox. So, if you want some practical stuff to work with for this powerful season right now, check out my last video. I gave you a sigil and a whole host of symbols to meditate on. So go check that new video out. I'm telling you, don't sleep on it. I put a lot of work into it, but not just because I put work into it, but there's a lot that you can use. Go do it. Go do it. My nose says, please watch the new video. Come on, come on. Praying Mantis, peace and greetings, my guy. I hope you're well. Peace and greetings. It was great to wake up to. Thank you. Jeez, I stayed up. I still ain't went to sleep. No sleep gang. All right, let's keep going. Let's keep going. Um, the mundane chakra. Because always remember what she said. When she says the God name, this is the connection to the absolute level of Chokmah. When she says Archangel, this is the connection to the Bria level. When she says the Order of Angels, that's the connection to the Yetziratic level, the astral plane. So I wonder what people are subconsciously doing when they meme these biblically accurate angels, right? They're working with something real. And of course, the link in Asaya, the mundane chakra, is this. You're going to see probably one of the zodiac or planetary influences. In this particular case, Chokmah represents the Mazaloth, which is another name for the entire zodiac. All 12 of them together as one entity. That's what Chokmah represents on the Asiatic level. The spiritualist experience, right? See, this is what you're going to experience if you do connect in meditation with this power, the vision of God face to face, right? And there ain't no way you're going to walk away from that unchanged. Virtue, devotion, right? Devotion. It's most likely at this level, you're going to find something that you can really dedicate yourself to, right? Instead of just scrambling and scraping, trying to make things work for yourself, right? Trying to get some money and some sex and some power. Eventually, once you get high enough on your spiritual journey, you're going to find something that you can devote yourself to. And that doesn't necessarily mean whatever you think it means. That just means you get really consistent because you figured out what archetypal energy you connect with. That's what's going to happen at this level. Archetypal energy, hence why the Mazaloth, the zodiac, is the representation. We're going to get into this now. Of course, there's no vice, by the way, because this high up the tree, we still haven't entered duality. We haven't entered form, right? We haven't entered separation. So there's no vice. Correspondence in the microcosm, the left side of the face. Remember, Kether's correspondence was the crown of the head, the cranium. So Hawkman's correspondence is the left side of the face. You'll find that Binah's correspondence is the right side of the face. Got it? Good, good, good. Good, good, good. I was watching some good old classic Bobby Hemmett earlier today. I haven't watched him in a long time. They just don't make him like that guy anymore. They don't make him like that guy anymore. He was on point too. Always. I have yet to hear him say something that he pulled out of his ass that don't stand up, that don't hold water today. Symbols, the lingam, the phallus, the yod of tetragrammaton, the inner robe of glory, the standing stone, like a rock, the tower, the uplifted rod, the uplifted rod of power, the straight line. These are all the symbols of Chokmah. Now notice the theme that's going on here. Notice the theme that's going on here. The tower, the uplifted rod, the straight line, the phallus, the lingam, right? So there's make no mistake of what we getting into tonight. Tarot cards, the 4 twos. So check this out. The twos of the tarot pack are representatives of Chokmah. This is kind of an easy way to learn the tarot. The ones are the aces are Kether. The twos are Chokmah. The threes are Binah. The fours, you know what I'm saying, go all the way down. Let's check this out. Check this out. I win. Peace, peace. I win says just on time. Peace and good health to everyone. It's dope how you always give Bobby his flowers. You know, that's how we do from the previous generations. I don't know what the young folks today do, but whenever somebody inspired you, or you know what I'm saying, somebody that you know how it is, man. You know how it is. Scora, CPK, peace, peace. Sean Harris, peace. Okay, so check it out. We're talking about the twos. The two of wands. We're talking about dominion. Dominion. Now remember all the symbology that I just said up here. The standing, what do you call it? She called it the uplifted rod, the standing stone, the straight line. Notice what's happening here. Dominion is what this card is called. The two of wands. The two of cups. This is called love. Love, right? The two of swords is peace restored. Peace restored. Does that look like peace restored to you? I wonder why she calls it this. We'll get into it, but just use your symbolic mind and analyze it and think about what you're seeing here. Then, of course, the Two of Pentacles is called harmonious change. Does that look like harmonious change to you? Does that look like harmonious change to you? Look at the waves in the background. Look at his goofy head. So one thing to notice as far as a theme in Kabbalah is that the higher up in the tree, things are simple. Things are pretty straightforward. But the lower you go, things get kind of complex. Now, on the flip side, things at the top of the tree tend to be more abstract, and things at the bottom tend to be more solid. So what I'm saying is this the first two represent the two upper worlds, Atziluth and Bria. Atziluth being the highest world, it's called dominion. When you look at this and you hear the word dominion, could you pretty much see that? It doesn't take too much of a stretch of mind. There's no cognitive dissonance if we say dominion. And the two of cups is called love. If you see this and somebody said this is called love, it doesn't take too much of a stretch of the mind to see the correlation, right? Now we're getting to the lower planes, the astral plane. Now this is called peace restored. Now there's a little bit of a conflict because she's blindfolded, she's holding two swords. I mean, it could mean peace restored, but you see the moon in the background. That means things are subject to change. Now the waters are still right, but there's a little bit of cognitive dissonance, and then you get to the lower world. It's called harmonious change. Well, this dude looked like he juggling to make ends meet, or is he having fun? The people in the boat in the background certainly are having fun. They're getting tossed and turned, rock knocking the boots, going all over the place. However, something here does mean harmonious change. Could it be that when it comes to the lower plane, change is the only constant? We'll get into it. We'll get into it. But analyze the symbols. That's how you find out what this stuff means. All right, let's get into it. Fat Tony, peace, peace. Peace, peace, Fat Tony. Chapter 16. Thank you, Sunshine Chicken. Mold box, salutations. Just in time. All right, so the color in Absoluth, and if you watched my video earlier, you heard me mention the color of the king scale. Well, that's what this actually is. The king scale is Absoluth. Um, Pure soft blue, that's what color it is in Absoluth, the king scale. And the queen scale, it's gray. And that's actually what you see in your traditional Qabalah tree of life. Typically, the colors of the Sephiroth are in the Bria colors, the queen scale. There's a reason for that. And typically, the paths of the tree are the paths of Absoluth. All right. In Yetzirah, the color is pearl gray, iridescent. Interesting. You'd have to see that in psychic vision. In Asaya, it's white flecked with red, blue, and yellow. Interior says, what's harmonious is good ability to dance with the changes. I like that. Yes, yes. And you don't stop. All right, let's keep going. One. Every phase of evolution commences by being in a state of unstable force. Every phase of evolution commences by being in a state of unstable force and proceeds through organization to equilibrium. Equilibrium having been achieved, no further development is possible without once more oversetting the stability and passing through a phase of contending forces. As we've already seen, Kether is the point formulated in the void. Kether is the point formulated in the void. According to Euclid's definition, a point has position but no dimensions. If, however, a point may be conceived of as extending through space, it becomes a line. The nature of the organization and evolution of the three supernals is so remote from our experience that we can only conceive of them symbolically. But if we conceive of the primordial point, which is Kether, as being extended into the line which is Chokmah, we shall have as adequate a symbolic representation as we may hope to achieve at our present state of understanding. Hmm. So far, we understand that Kether began as a point formed in the triple blackness of space, a point formed. A point has no dimensions, right? It's just a location in the middle of nowhere. However, imagine that point now extending out, becoming a line. That action, that behavior right there is literally Chokmah. We'll get into it. Cybernet, peace. Two, this fourth flowing energy represented by the straight line or the uplifted rod of power is essentially dynamic. So that right there, she just explained. You can take it away from any sexual stuff. It's literally the force extending out of that point. And where is it extending? It's extending into manifestation, right? Now, it just so happens some other things extend in order to create. But what came first, the Kabbalah or the Bible? So, this fourth flowing energy, represented by the straight line or the uplifted rod of power, is essentially dynamic. It is, in fact, the primary dynamism. For we cannot conceive the crystallization of Kether in space as a dynamic process. It partakes rather a staticism of the limiting of the formless and free in the bonds of form, tenuous as that form may be in our eyes. So Kether kind of just appeared after an unimaginable epoch of time. It just kind of appeared so gradually that you wouldn't have noticed it. So it's not an active force, it's a passive force. And that's how these Sephiroth on the tree emanate. It goes from passive to active, to passive to active, to passive to active, right? So from Kether, the active would become Chokmah, hence the masculine aspect. Then it becomes passive again, Binah, hence the feminine aspect. Then it becomes active again, Chesed. Then it becomes passive again, Geburah. Then it becomes active again and passive again. Iwin says, can the tree of life be a map to our body parts, like the belly button could be part of the void? She actually went over that a couple chapters ago. Um, Not literally, no, it's not literally your body parts, but it's generally symbolically, right? Like, say, for example, you could see Gibera, Mars, the sword, as the right hand. It's not actually your right hand, but what is the right hand for people? For most people, that's your primary hand. For most people, that's the hand you're going to pull the trigger with. You're going to bring down the sword with. That's the hand you're going to write with or play guitar with. It's that hand of change, right? You're going to change something with that hand. So the tree does relate to the body parts in that way, symbolically, but not literally. The same thing with the chakras, right? The heart chakra is not your heart. The root chakra is not your perineum. The third eye chakra is not the pineal gland. That's one thing we got to start getting away from, confusing metaphysics with physics, right? Confusing physical stuff with spiritual stuff. There's a difference, right? And people get confused when they try to make things literal. So don't do that. Don't do that. The pineal gland is the pineal gland, but the third eye is the symbolic force that can be located on that area of the etheric body, not the physical body, of the energy body. All right. 3. The limits of the organization of such a form having been reached, the ever inflowing force of the unmanifest transcends its limitations, demanding fresh modes of development, establishing fresh relationships and stresses. It is this outdriving of unorganized, uncompensated force which is Chokmah, because Chokmah is a dynamic sphere, Sephiroth, ever outflowing in boundless energy. We do well to look upon it as a channel for the passage of force, rather than a receptacle for the storage of force. Remember what we said about active and passive? Look at the difference. You've got a receptacle for the storage of force. You can think of the womb, maybe, the vagina, maybe, receptacle for the storage of force. And then you have a channel for the passage of force, right? The penis, the masculine and the feminine. That's your Chokmah and your Binah. So look what she says. It is this outdriving of unorganized, uncompensated force. That's what Chokmah is. It's just a pure energy. There's no court, there's no organization to it, there's no order to it. It's chaos, it's unlimited and it's unbound and it's going where it's gonna go. Right? So it is the outdriving of unorganized, uncompensated force, which is Chokmah. And because Chokmah is a dynamic Sephiroth, ever outflowing in boundless energy, we do well to look upon it as a channel for the passage of force, rather than a receptacle for the storage of force. Big difference, right? This is the divine masculine and divine feminine, right? Not no titties versus muscles, not macho versus girly. It's either being a channel for the passage of force or a receptacle for the storage of force. That's your divine masculine and feminine. There's nothing to romanticize. There's nothing to, oh, great goddess, you're a goddess and a queen. None of that stuff. Straight up energy. 4. Chokmah is not an organizing Sephiroth, but it is the great stimulator of the universe. It is from Chokmah that Binah, the third Sephiroth, receives its influx of emanation, and Binah is the first of the organizing, stabilizing Sephiroth. It is not possible to understand either of the paired Sephiroth without considering its mate. Therefore, in order to understand Chokmah, we shall have to say something about Binah. Let it be noted, then, that Binah is assigned to the planet Saturn and is called the Superior Mother. I don't know anything about Catholicism, but don't they call like a certain rank of nun Superior Mother? I know somebody here is Catholic or knows about that kind of thing. I might have heard that on a movie. J. Baldhill says, get you a divinity who can do both. Absolutely. James Jeremiah, peace and greetings. Alchemy of life, peace, peace. Interior says Mother Superior. Okay, well, hell, close enough. Close enough. 5. In Chokmah and Binah, we have the archetypal positive and negative, right? The archetypal positive and negative. The primordial maleness and femaleness, established while countenance beheld not countenance. And manifestation was incipient. Somebody look up incipient. Incipient. Somebody look up incipient. According to NLP, if you read and you come across a word that you don't know the definition of, it makes it very difficult to retain the next couple of lines. Oh shit. And if you lean too far forward in your chair, you will definitely fall off. Jeez Louise. Shit. Ma'am, this is a Wendy's. All right. Good thing the camera was not facing me. All right. Thank you, Sunshine Chick. And in an initial stage, beginning to happen or develop. Cool. So that is incipient. So let's go back and read it. In Chokmah and Binah, we have the archetypal positive and negative, the primordial maleness and femaleness, established while countenance beheld not countenance, and manifestation was incipient. Manifestation was in an initial stage. It was beginning to happen, beginning to develop. It is from these primary pairs of opposites that the pillars of the universe spring, between which is woven the web of manifestation. And she means quite literally, according to the science, right? It's from this primary pairs of opposites that the right hand pillar of mercy and the left hand pillar of severity spring, right? And between those two pillars, the web of manifestation is formed. Sunshine Tick says, countenance beheld not countenance means that one person did not look directly at another person's face. One person did not look directly at another person's face. Okay. Tom, thank you very much. I very much appreciate that. Thank you very much. You guys, I appreciate the blessings. I do. Um, yeah, man. Came across something unexpected, but we figure these things out. And ain't nothing permanent, for better or for worse. I appreciate that, Tom. Thank you very much. Al Dickey, peace, peace. That's my real name. Rainwater, peace and greetings. Peace and greetings. All right. Hex reads, good luck on your ritual. Let's continue. So, the primordial maleness and femaleness established while countenance beheld not countenance, right? While one person did not look directly at another person's face. Interesting, right? Because when we talk about Kethler, we've got the face and profile, and then we've got um, Chokmah, which is the left side or right side of the face, and then Binah, which is the other side of the face. Yeah, Chokmah is the left side, Binah is the right side. So I wonder if that's why it's translated like that. Countenance beheld not countenance. Hmm. And manifestation was incipient. It is from these primary pairs of opposites that the pillars of the universe spring, between which is woven the web of manifestation. 6. As we have already noted, the tree of life is a diagrammatic representation of the universe on which the positive and negative, male and female aspects are represented by the two flanking pillars of mercy and severity. K. Harris, peace, peace. Mercy and severity. It may seem strange to uninstructed thought that the title of mercy should be given to the male or positive pillar, and that of severity to the female pillar. But when it is realized that the dynamic male type of force is the stimulator of upbuilding and evolution, and that the female type of force is the builder of forms, it will be seen that the nomenclature is apt. For form, although it is the builder and organizer, is also the limiter. How many people have heard others say that Saturn is Satan, right? How many heard that, people blame Eve for evil? They blame Eve for the fall of man. They blame the feminine, the female, and they say that Saturn is Satan, is evil. Has anybody heard those type of themes being circulated in religion? That comes from Chokmah and Binah. That comes straight from Qabalah, or I should say, a misinterpretation of the Qabalah. And Dion Fortune will definitely clarify all that if you're not already starting to have your wheels turn and figure this thing out. But look at what she just said, right? The masculine aspect is free flowing force and the upbuilder of. Wait, let's read what she says. But when it is realized that the dynamic male type of force is the stimulator of upbuilding and evolution, and that the female type of force is the builder of forms, notice that building of forms and evolution are at opposite ends. See, we think that evolution is building new buildings and building new technology, but in truth, evolution is moving in a different direction than building up forms. Tibetai, peace. Tibetai says, what it do, Travis? You're getting me an unexpected extended shift at the moment. My relief is running 3 hours late. Damn. Somehow I feel I accidentally asked for the hours. 64 for the week so far. Well, at least at least it is transmuting into something useful and appropriate for you. So the male force, the masculine force, is upbuilding and evolution. The female type of force is the builder of forms. the builder of forms, it will be seen that the nomenclature is apt. For form, although it is the builder and organizer, it is also the limiter. Each form that is built must in turn be outgrown, lose its usefulness, and so become a hindrance to evolving life. See that? As life evolves, it has to outgrow the forms that it was in. The same way that snails and snakes and reptiles and bugs and people shed their skin, shed their form, their shell, right? We have to keep eating and pooping and paying bills and shit. That's why they call Eve evil and Saturn the devil. Each form that is built must in turn be outgrown, lose its usefulness, and so become a hindrance to evolving life, and therefore the bringer in of dissolution and decay, which lead on to death. The father is the giver of life, but the mother is the giver of death. Do you see that? You see that? So we're not talking about feelings, and we're not talking about opinions. We're talking about the fact that Chokmah is the expanding masculine force, and Binah is the contracting feminine force. And I want you to understand something about feminine and masculine. They're not opposites, they're not at odds. One is not weak and one is not strong. They complement each other, they work together, literally, right? Because they both come out of the one, they both come out of Kether. Kether was undifferentiated, it was whole. Think about the yin yang, both sides spinning around in harmony, right? A black dot on the white, a white dot on the black. Everybody's cool. It's cool like that. But as we descend in vibration, it splits apart. So if you take one thing and you snap it in half, of course, some's gonna go over here and some's gonna go over there. Now the two have to work together as a whole in order for them to function, because they are the same thing on a higher plane. But in this lower plane of manifestation, they have their own pieces of the whole. So in order for them to function properly, they have to work together. And where one lacks, the other has abundance. And where one has abundance, the other lacks. So the masculine and the feminine, they're complementary. They're supposed to be together. One fits in the other like a glove. Michael Green says that's why the goal is to leave behind the world of forms. Absolutely. Absolutely. Not to make the world of forms better. There ain't no guru worth his salt is telling you you're supposed to make this to build up heaven, to build up a paradise, to build a new Wall Street, or we're supposed to build Egypt again or build Atlantis again. No, 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 no. That's not what time it is. That's the illusion. That's more of the same. We've been here so long, we've already done everything. There's nothing to do here except leave this place. Now, if somebody telling you otherwise, I would like to examine their reasoning in doing so. Perhaps it's identification with matter, but you know, Kashigi says I was wondering what becomes a form without a force behind its manifestation. For example, what is Prakriti without Shiva, Visvara? Yeah, and I think that goes with what I said. They both come out of the one. If you really look at Samkhya and Vedanta, at the top of that tree is Shiva and Shakti, but there's a level above them. There's a level above them where they are both united, right? Shakti is Shiva. Shiva is Shakti. Shakti is not a woman dancing around, and Shiva is not a man sitting Indian style. Shiva is the force. Shakti is the form. I could give modern examples of it, but maybe a little bit later. You guys remember that character on Mortal Kombat where it was like the big, strong body and there was like a little girl or something riding on top controlling it? Or perhaps from the old school Ninja Turtles, you had Krang, which was this helpless little brain inside of this big ass robot body. That's Purusha Prakriti, right? One is the force, one is the form. They have to work together because without each other, they can't do anything. Prakriti cannot do anything at all without Purusha, and Purusha can't do anything without Prakriti, except meditate and be itself, right? Mayat Mystic, peace. Iwin says, Heaven sounds boring though. I feel like the fun wouldn't be there, lol. Like Brother Panic mentioned, you can enjoy food here. Like Cypher from the Matrix just want to eat steak in the Matrix. Exactly right. There is no fun to be had in heaven. Like the concept of polarity exists in manifestation. Fun is a polarity, right? Fun has an opposite. All polarities stay here. All polarities stay here in manifestation. And that's the thing. If you're identified with matter, you're looking to run towards one polarity and run away from another. So the whole goal is to transcend the very impulse to do that. The same way that Bobby said, I'm looking for the truth. I don't care if it takes me back to church, right? I don't care if it takes me to Nazi Hitler. I'm looking for the truth. That should be what it is. Not I'm looking for what feels good and what's fun. I'm looking for the truth. So, the father is the giver of life, Chokmah, but the mother is the giver of death, Binah, because her womb is the gate of ingress to matter, and through her life is ensouled in form. Through her, life is ensouled in form, and no form can be either infinite or eternal. Death is implicit in birth. So, what's literally happening is that once Purusha meets up with Prakriti, and Dion Fortune called Binah Mula Prakriti, which is Prakriti in her highest form, and she don't sling words like that recklessly. She's an assassin. She's very precise with these words. She called Binah Mula Prakriti. Personally, I call the entire tree Prakriti, but Dion Fortune's the teacher right now. So if Binah is Prakriti, then that will make Chokmah Purusha. And what happens is that when Chokmah meets up with Binah, when the masculine meets up with the feminine, she takes a piece of that soul and contains it within a form, right? So we can say there's this spark of life. Binah takes that spark of life and gives it a form, we can say, of a bird or a deer or a computer. Now, what's going to happen is, like homie said, it may be fun for a while, but eventually that form is going to break down and dissolve and deteriorate and get old, right? The bird's going to have to die. The deer's going to have to die or get hunted, right? Because the material plane is a parasitic plane. It may get hunted and eaten. The computer will eventually deteriorate and break down. Then what happens, right? Now that soul spark that was contained has to suffer, has to suffer. Because we'll get through it in this book. Most of what happens is that that spark gets attached to form and attached to the experiences of form. So it doesn't leave and go back to where it came from. It seeks out more form within Prakriti. And that process replicates for eternity until what was a bird or a deer becomes a human being. And that same exact thing happens. That's why I say it's only one soul. That's why they say we're all one. It's that same thing. Bina, Prakriti, takes a slice of that one spirit and gives it a shape and a form. And it experiences life and gets addicted to life. And the form dies. And now that soul spark desperately clings on to anything it can get, and it's reincarnated over and over. That's why all this spiritual stuff we're doing here, like I said before multiple times, the point is learning to no longer identify with matter, because as long as you identify with matter, you're going to continue doing this, right? When Brother Panic said, "Oh, I'm not coming back," and everybody started echoing that and making that their slogan, not understanding what it means. That's what it means. To not come back here means you finally understand that you don't have to. More on that later. Death is implicit in birth. Death is implicit in birth. 7. It is between these two polarizing aspects of manifestation, the supernal father and the supernal mother, that the web of life is woven, souls going back and forth between them like a weaver's shuttle. In our individual lives, in our physiological rhythms, and in the history of the rise and fall of nations, we observe the same rhythmic periodicity. I like that word. It's fun to say, periodicity. So look at this. What she's saying is that this masculine and feminine dance, which this is cosmic sex, right? Not what you see on Pornhub, not what you see on X Hamster, not what you see on um, Twitter, X. What we're dealing with is form taking shape, giving life to force, giving it a form, giving it something to be, and it rises, and it goes through the three gunas. Basically, it's wrapped up in the three gunas. The Vedics call these three gunas, rajas, tamas, and sattva, they call it like a thread, like a three. You ever seen a rope, like a big ass rope? It's not just one long string, it's like a bunch of threads twisted together real tight. That's what the prison actually, that was, it's not a prison, even though it sounds like it. That's what the matrix is. It's a three-banded thick ass rope that binds us to the material plane. Now that three-banded thick ass rope is rajas, tamas, and sattva. So everything that is given a form must go through that process of rising, falling, balancing, rising, falling, balancing. You will see it everywhere if you have the occult eyes to see. And what Dion Fortune said is you're going to see it in our individual lives, right? You're going to see it in our physiological rhythms. You wake up, you're excited, you're ready to go, right? At some point, you get tired, ready to go to sleep. And sometimes you're really calm and stable. He says, in the history and the rise and fall of nations, we observe the same rhythmic periodicity. I want to give you a look at this also, how it occurs within the tree. That rhythmic periodicity, the three-band rope of the gunas. Hold on, I'm looking for a pictorial, a graphic, a picture. I feel like I passed it. Said I'm feeling for you. I don't ever mind. It's all blown on you, baby. Girl, I'm so strong now. This right here. So when you think about the tree and you look at it, you're gonna see that there are active, formative, and balancing. Maybe I gotta pull back just a little bit so you can see it. Look right here. Right, so we're talking about the three triangles of the tree: the supernal triangle at the top, the higher self, which is the middle, and the personality, which is the bottom, not including Malkuth. So at the top, you've got an activating force, a formative force, and a balancing force. These words are specific. The activating force is that rajas, the formative is the tamas, and the balancing is the sattva. It's easy to say that the formative is the tamasic aspect, because what did Dion Fortune just tell us? It is the Binah force that takes spirit and lowers the vibration so it becomes trapped in form, right? So that's the formative. The fool would represent the activating force. You know why? Because the fool connects to Chokmah. The magician will be the formative, the tamasic, because it connects to Binah. And guess what the Empress does? The Empress force balances Chokmah and Binah. So you're going to see this three-stranded rope up and down the tree and all throughout existence in literally every every place, right? Every place. And then she shows you here, of course, it happens. The Strength card, the Hermit card, the Justice. These are the paths. Um, this is the picture I was looking for. You can see it illustrated here. Activating force, formative form, and it continues all down the tree.
formative form, right? Activating force, formative. Now all these whites that go across here, the Empress, the High Priestess, the Strength card, the Tower card, the Temperance card, the Universe card, all these are balancing paths. And notice they're on the middle pillar, right? Of balance. But every other path that connects these other Sephiroth, you're going to experience that Rajas and that Tamas, that dance of up and down, positive and negative, masculine and feminine. It might look complex, but it's not. It's not, because you're looking at three different types of energies on three different levels, which is what this little box is telling you right here. The supernal triangle, the ethical triangle, the astral triangle, right? The supernal triangle, which is the top of the tree, that's your spiritual self. The middle with Tifereth, that's the higher self. And of course, the lower self, which is Yasad, Hod, and Netzach, that's the personality. Malkuth, you could say, is your body and your environment. Make sense? Got it? Just flip to the back of this book, right? Because I know you got the book. If you flip to the very back of the book, you'll see this diagram. You'll see this diagram, and that's what it was just talking about. The supernal triangle. That's your spiritual self. That's what you're trying to uh, realize. That's what you're trying to realize. Notice that triangle pointing up. Now, here's where you would have Doth, the abyss. And like most abysses, it may have somewhat of a reflective quality. Perhaps that's why these triangles point down. But here's the ethical triangle. This is your higher self, Tifereth, Gibera, Chesed. And then another reflection down is going to be the personality, the astral triangle, Yesod, Hod, Netzach. And then, of course, the dingleberry, right? I won't say too much, but yeah, that's the physical plane, the environment, your body. All the physical plane is one thing. Your body, your clothes, your surround, like it's all one thing. Matter is one thing. That's why we don't own anything, because we're not actually here. We're not actually here. The material plane is one gray lump of clay. But more on that later, of course. But yeah, that was just an example of what she's talking about there in verse number 7. You're going to see that triple style of energy reflected everywhere. And that's a telltale sign that you're still dealing with the material plane. Because when you get up to a space like Kether, that's not happening. That's not happening. All right. Number 8. Number 8. In these, the first paired Sephiroth, we have the key to sex, right? And that's what I just said, cosmic sex, right? I'm not being freaky. That's what is happening here. That's literally what's happening here. We have the key to sex, the pair of biological opposites, maleness and femaleness. But the pairing of opposites does not only occur in type, it also occurs in time. What? Time gender? And we have alternating epochs in our lives, in our physiological processes. You know what that means, your physiological processes? Right? Your energy, your phases, there are phases that you go through. Sometimes you're mad, sometimes you're calm, sometimes you're happy, right? Sometimes you feel other things. Well, those are masculine and feminine, but not in the way that you think. Remember what we said before, one is transmitting energy, one is containing energy, or I should say force. So, look, the pairing of opposites does not only occur in type, it also occurs in time. And we have alternating epochs in our lives. Astrology tells you this, right? You get into Vedic astrology and you'll see, oh, I'm in my Saturn dasha, I'm in my Jupiter, I'm in my Saturn, I'm in this, I'm in that. Well, isn't Saturn a female planet? Jupiter a male planet? Venus a female planet? Depending on how you're looking at it. So, We have alternating epochs in our lives, in our physiological processes, and in the history of nations, during which activity and passivity, construction and destruction alternatively prevail. The knowledge of the periodicity of these cycles is part of the secret, guarded ancient wisdom of the initiates, and is worked out astrologically and kabbalistically. Mhm. Astrologically and kabbalistically. I showed you an example of what it could look like to work something out astrologically and kabbalistically earlier today on that live stream if you didn't catch it. Or if you did, then you know what I'm talking about. And you have an idea of what she's talking about. 9. The magical image of Chokmah and the symbols assigned to it bear out this idea. The magical image is that of a bearded male, bearded to indicate maturity, the father who has proved his manhood, not the untried virgin male. The symbolic language speaks plainly, and the lingam of the Hindus and the phallus of the Greeks are the male generative organ in their respective tongues. The standing stone, the tower, and the uplifted rod all signify the same virile member at its most potent. You know what she means by that, right? All those symbols represent being bricked up, but not being bricked up, but the force behind bricked upness. For the young folks who understand what that means, I suppose. 10. It must not be thought, however, that Chokmah is a phallic or sexual symbol and nothing else. All right, so she just confirmed that it was, but that's not all it is. It is primarily a dynamic or positive symbol. For maleness is a form of dynamic force, just as femaleness is a form of static, latent, or potential force, inert till stimulus be given. All the whole is greater than the part, and Chokmah and Binah are wholes of which sex is a part. The whole is greater than the part, and Chokmah and Binah, they are together, right? They are whole, but sex is a part of that whole. Just like a regular relationship, right? Sex is a part of the relationship. I'd hope that's not the whole relationship. In understanding the relationship which sex has to polarizing force as a whole, we find the key to the right understanding of sex. And we can assess against a cosmic standard the teachings of psychology and morality relating thereto. We can also see how it comes about that the subconscious mind of man can represent the sexes by so many and such diverse symbols as the Freudians aver, and why sublimation of the sexual instinct is possible as the moralists aver. Manifestation, then, listen to this. Manifestation, then, is sexual in so much as it takes place always in terms of the pairs of opposites. And sex is cosmic and spiritual because it has roots in the three supernals. So when it comes to manifestation, are you making those ends meet? Are you connecting the dots? Are you putting two and two together? We must learn not to dissociate the airy flower from the earthy root, or the flower that is cut off. For the flower that is cut off from its root fades, and its seeds are barren, whereas the root, secure in Mother Earth, can produce flower after flower and bring their fruit to maturity. Nature is greater and truer than conventional morality. Remember that, yo. Nature is greater and truer than conventional morality. In other words, people are going to have all kinds of rules. Human beings come up with all types of morals, and we have all these things that we have that we call culture, right? But I tell you what, nature's going to show you what's real. Nature does not care about morality. you shut down the internet and block the food from getting to the grocery store, you will have zombie apocalypse in a couple of days. Us human beings are three missed meals away, three missed meals away from becoming wild again. But look at what the animals do. I mean, of course, we're still going to live by morality because we're human beings. However, nature don't follow those rules. So nature is greater and truer than conventional morality, which is often nothing but taboo and totemism. Happy the people whose morality embodies nature's laws, for they shall lead harmonious lives and increase and multiply and possess the earth. 'Hmm. Unhappy the people whose morality is a savage system of taboos designed to propitiate an imaginary Moloch of a deity, for they shall be sterile and sinful. Equally unhappy the people whose morality outrages the sanctity of natural process, and in plucking the flower has no regard for the fruit, for they shall be diseased of body and corrupt of estate. Yikes. Yikes. 11. In Chokmah, then, we must see both the creative word, which said, "Let there be light," and the lingam of Shiva, and the phallus adored by the Bacchants. We must learn to recognize dynamic force and revere it wherever we see it, for its God name is Jehovah Tetragrammaton. All right, look, she just told you that, right? Whenever you see this dynamic force in action, and it doesn't just have to be in the obvious way, this dynamic force displays itself all throughout reality, right? If you have the eyes to see it, it's a holy force, right? It's a holy force. We must revere it when we see it. And guess what? That holy force has a name, Jehovah Tetragrammaton. That's the name of that force. There's a clue to the God names on the tree of life. The God names are the force behind that Sephiroth. You don't need Viagra when you have Jehovah Tetragrammaton. Uh-oh. I wasn't supposed to say that, Dion said. We see it in the spread tail of the peacock and the iridescence of the neck of the dove. But we also hear it in the yowl of the tomcat and smell it in the stench of the he goat. Likewise, we meet it in the colonizing adventures of the most virile epochs of our history, notably those of Elizabeth and Victoria, both women, right? So once again, it's not just coming through a male body because it is a force, not a cultural moral thing. We see it again in the man. And by the way, listen to what she's saying right here. So doesn't it make sense that this card is called Dominion, right? This is the very force that she's talking about. He's got his eyes set on the land that he's conquering and expanding out upon, right? He's going out there, he's taking over, he's expanding his kingdom, he's enterprising. He's got the forces, but he's got an army behind him. You know what I'm saying? He's got money behind him. He's got everything. And he's putting it to work. That's the Chokmah force on the highest plane, by the way. See, with the wands, this is Absolute. And the name of that very force that I just described, the name of that very force of expanding and enterprising, who's going to stop me, right? I have the power. I have the power. He-Man holding that sword up high. Thunder, thunder, thundercats. Oh, right? That type of power, that type of energy, that type of vibe is called Jehovah Tetragrammaton. Does anybody understand what I'm saying here? That's why she said, likewise, we meet it. Not just these animals that, are getting horny and trying to have a mating call and attract the mate. Yes, that is a display of this energy, but also we see it in the colonizing adventures, right? They're doing the same thing, but they're doing it to the country. They're going out and expanding and colonizing. And there was a viral epoch of our history. So there was a time period where this was happening a lot. Remember what she said earlier in verse number 8? She said, not only does this occur in type, but it also occurs in time. So look, what she's showing you is how to see divine masculine, not just in people or animals, but seeing it in countries and generations. It's in music, it's in food, it's in everything that human beings experience. Let me know if you understand what's happening here. Let me know. I do, right? I do. I can only assume that you do, but let me know. Otherwise, we're gonna keep going. So we see it in the colonizing adventures of the most viral epochs of our history, notably those of Elizabeth and Victoria, both women. We see it again in the man diligent in his toil, strenuous in his profession, right? He's working hard. He's putting in hours, right? In order that his home may be provided for. So that hardworking father, that hardworking mother, right? They got two jobs to make ends to put food in the kids' mouths, to put clothes on their backs, to make sure that he got a Nintendo Switch for Christmas, right? Doing everything she can, doing everything he can. You're seeing the Chokmah force, and that force is called Jehovah Tetragrammaton. Not just in the upright rod, the upright rod, right? So we see it again in the man diligent in his toil, strenuous in his profession, in order that his home may be provided for. All these are types of Chokmah, whose additional title is Abba, Father. Ooh, Abba, why hast thou forsaken me? I wonder if that has a different meaning. In all these manifestations, let us see the Father, the giver of life to the unborn, as well as the male lusting after its mate. Right? So I didn't just throw that in there. That's what this is. That's what this is. Thus, we shall get a truer perspective in matters of sex. The Victorian attitude, in its reaction against restoration grossness, practically arrived at the standard of the most primitive tribes, who, travelers tell us, do not associate the union of the sexes with the production of offspring. 12. The color of Chokmah is said to be gray, in its higher aspects, pearl gray, iridescent. So just imagine, real quick, iridescent pearl gray. Perhaps you've seen a pearl before, and you can kind of see that unique white, light blue, silvery, kind of swirly color. That's what it really looks like on the highest plane. That's the color you would see in meditation if you were to visit that. So the color of Chokmah is said to be gray, in its higher aspects, pearl gray, iridescent. In this, we see the veiling of the pure white light of Kether. That's why it looks like that. That's why it looks like that. Descending in its path of emanation towards Binah, whose color is black. 13. The mundane chakra, or direct physical manifestation of Chokmah, is said to be the zodiac, right? The direct physical manifestation of Chokmah is said to be the zodiac, called in Hebrew Mazaloth. We thus see that the ancient rabbis rightly understood the process of the evolution of our solar system. 14. The Yetzeretic text assigned to Chokmah is, as usual, exceedingly obscure in its wording. Nevertheless, we can gather from it certain illuminating hints. The second path, as it denominates Chokmah, it calls the illuminating intelligence. We've already referred to the creative word, which said, "Let there be light." Among the symbols assigned to Chokmah in 777, the Mather's Crowley system, it is said that the inner robe of glory, a Gnostic term. These two ideas, taken together, lead on the imagination to the idea of ennobling life, the illuminating spirit. It is the male force that implants the fecundating spark in the passive ovum on all planes and transform its inert latency into the active upbuilding of growth and evolution. It is the dynamic force of life, which is spirit, that ensouls the clay of physical form and constitutes the inner robe of glory that is worn by all beings in whom is the breath of life. Force embodied in form and form ensouled by force is signified by the illuminating intelligence and the inner robe of glory. Curve. Peace, peace. Curve says late, but peace, everyone. Oh, you missed all the good parts, Curve. Um, I'm not sure what the okay is for, but I'll take that as a good thing. Elias says Hakma begins with the letter Chet, the number 8. Ram O says 2025. I plan to look over back on these lives and take notes with my physical copy of the book too. Oh yeah, good idea. Good idea. Let's keep going. 15. The Etzeratic text also calls Hakma the crown of creation, thus implying that, like Kether, it is overshadowing and external to, rather than immanent and absorbed in, the manifest universe. Actually, it is the viral force of Hakma which gives the impulse to manifestation, and thus is prior to manifestation itself, right? Hence why it's part of the supernal triangle. That top triangle of Kether, Chokmah, and Binah, they kind of rest above creation, but it's because of them that creation exists. That's your Adam and Eve. What came first, Qabalah or the Bible? The voice of the Logos was crying, "Let there be light," long before the waters were separated from the waters and the firmament appeared. Well, I think that she just answered the question. This idea is further borne out in the phrase of the Yetziratic text, which speaks of Chokmah as the splendor of unity, equaling it, thus clearly indicating its affinity to Kether, unity, rather than to the planes of dualistic form. The word splendor, as used here, clearly indicates an emanation or shining forth, and teaches us to think of Chokmah as the emanating influence of pure being rather than as a thing in itself. All right, so let's look at that again. If you may be confused or not about what Hakma represents, teaches us to think of Hakma as the emanating influence of pure being. The emanating influence of pure being. That's almost like being guided and directed by the Spirit. The emanating influence of pure being rather than as a thing itself. Hmm, interesting. This again leads us on to a truer apprehension of sex. Let it be made quite clear, however, that the sphere of Chokmah has nothing to do with fertility cults as such, save that maleness, dynamic force, is the primary life giver and caller into manifestation. Though the higher and lower manifestations of dynamic force are the same in essence, they are upon different levels. Omnia Arlandria, peace, 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 peace. Hey, you're not at the end this time. You came rather early. Welcome, welcome. Right at the good stuff. So check this out. Priapus is not identical with Jehovah. Um, you might want to look up Priapus. Priapus is a Greek god. Does anybody know what kind of god Priapus is? Though the higher and lower manifestations of dynamic force are the same in essence, they are different upon levels. That's why she says that. Priapus is not identical with Jehovah, right? Although Jehovah and Priapus, they're the same in essence, they're drastically different entities. If you don't know, if you don't know the god Priapus, perhaps a quick Google search will tell you everything you need to know about that particular entity. But that's what she's saying here. Look at that line one more time. Though the higher and lower manifestations of dynamic force are the same in essence, they are upon different levels. Just like one thing Dion Fortune says that's really powerful. She says that all goddesses are the same goddess, and all gods are the same god. The difference is what level of manifestation you meet that level of force at. That's going to tell you what you're dealing. So it's not there never was really any true what do you call it, polytheism, right? What you're dealing with, even in Christianity, what you're dealing with is multiple levels of the same forces, the same entity. Nadraj Ram says, if your Priapus lasts longer than 4 hours, call a doctor. Right. Right. 3 hours, you're okay. 4 hours, no. No. Priapus is the god of the erection. And you can say that that is a lower form of Jehovah, based on what she already described a couple of paragraphs ago. Nevertheless, the root of Priapus is to be found in Jehovah, and the manifestation of God the Father is to be found in Priapus, as is indicated by the fact that the rabbis call Chokmah the Yod of Tetragrammaton. They don't call it that for nothing. And Yod is identical with Lingam in their phraseology. So Chokmah is the what of the tetragram? What's the Tetragrammaton? The Tetragrammaton is the four-letter name of God. The four-letter name of God. Elah says, think of the obelisk, the Washington Monument. That's actually a perfect example. So, when you got Kether, you got Chokmah, Binah. Chokmah is the Yod of Tetragrammaton. Yod He Vav He. 16. It is curious that the Sefer Yetzirah says of two of the Sephiroth that they are exalted above every head, right? A contradictory statement. Yet, in the fact that it is made with regard to Chokmah and Malkuth, there is illumination for us if we ponder its significance. Chokmah is the supernal father. Malkuth is the inferior mother. And the text which declares her exaltation above every head also says that she sitteth upon the throne of Binah, the superior mother. Remember that? The negative counterpart of Chokmah. Now, Chokmah is the most abstract form of force, and Malkuth is the densest form of matter. So, in this statement, we have a hint that each of this pair of extreme opposites is the supreme manifestation of its own type, and both are equally holy in their different ways. So, look, Malkuth would be the absolute densest manifestation of matter. And because it is that, it is pure. It is pure matter, and it is holy. Every part of the tree is holy. Every part of this existence is holy because it's part of the quote unquote body of God. And then you've got Chokmah, which is the most abstract form of force. Force is already abstract, but they both represent two extremes and two pure essences. So in this statement, we have a hint that each of this pair of extreme opposites is the supreme manifestation of its own type, and both are equally holy in their different ways. So that's why you'll see written that Chokmah sitteth, that Chokmah is exalted above every head. You'll also see that Malkuth is exalted above every head. 17. We must distinguish between the fertility rite, the vitality rite, and the illumination or inspiration rite, which calls down the Pentecostal tongues of flame. The fertility cult aims at plain and simple reproduction, whether of flocks, fields, or wives. It belongs to Yesod and has nothing whatever to do with the vitality cult, which belongs to Netzach, the sphere of Venus Aphrodite. This concerns certain very important esoteric teaching on the subject of the vitalizing or magnetic influences which the sexes have on each other, quite apart from physical intercourse, and will be dealt with when Netzach, the sphere of Venus, comes to be considered. So, look, this magic of sex has more to do than the actual physical act. There's more aspects of sex magic than laying down with somebody. And notice here, she's naming these three different types of rituals that are dealing with similar force, right? She said the fertility rite, the vitality rite, and the illumination or inspiration rite. So look, on the fertility rite, it's the bodies that are literally being fertilized and reproduced, right? Whether it's making more children or making more animals on the farm, they would do these fertility rituals, pulling down the energy associated with Yesod. And that's because Yesod is the sphere that deals with building up a physical body, building an etheric body and a physical body. It's also, if we were to put the tree as a metaphor for the body, it's located where the sex organs are. So the fertility rite wouldn't be done with Chokmah or Binah. It will be done with Yesod in mind. Now the vitality rite, that's fertilizing the energy, right? Fertilizing um not inspiration, but what's a good word for it? Boosting up morale and bringing health and, bringing more of that Kundalini style energy into life itself, not just for sex. That would actually be attributed to Netzach, to the Venus aspect. Hmm. So, Elah says Aquarius the cupbearer is a good example for Malkuth. I don't know about that one. I don't know about that one. 18. The rite of Chokmah, if such it can be called, is concerned with the influx of cosmic energy. It is formless, being the pure impulse of dynamic creation. And being formless, the creation it gives rise to can assume any and every form. Hence the possibility of sublimating creative force from its purely preepic aspect. So look at this. It's almost as if we're talking about some type of spiritual stem cells, right? This cosmic energy that is pure and can literally be whatever you direct it to be. That's what Chokmah is. Pure life force shooting out all over the place, which is why Binah gets a hold of it and turns it into something. Binah gets a hold of that pure life force and creates whatever needs to be created, whether it's another dog, another redneck, another ballerina, another construction worker, another president, but it can become anything. 19. So far as I know, there is no formal magical ceremony of any of the three supernals. They can only be contacted through participation in their essential nature. Mm. I win says, maybe that's why my art has been getting better since I practice not wasting my energy anymore. Absolutely. Absolutely. Pay attention to what works and do more of it and see if you can do it even better. 19. Okay, so yeah, so far as I know, there is no formal magical ceremony of any of the three supernals. They can only be contacted through participation in their essential nature. Kether, pure being, is contacted when we win to realization of the nature of existence without parts, attributes, or dimensions. That's extremely difficult for anybody to do, right? And remember, we talked about this on the last read. To think of Kether, you've got to sit down and be able to come into an experience of consciousness without attributes, without descriptive parts, nothing to hold on to, just pure being. That's not easy for anybody. In fact, most people can't do that. Not because people are stupid, but because the mind doesn't work in that way. The mind has been conditioned to grab something, to cling on to something, to, because you got to think, the mind itself, right? Thought cannot think about thought, can it? The mind can't see itself. It has to express itself through words and images. It has to use things to experience, which is why meditation is so important because it teaches you how to slowly start to train yourself to expand past the mind process. The mind isn't suited to understand Kether. The mind can't conceive of Kether because it's not supposed to. You're supposed to go beyond the mind, past the mind, into a different angle of consciousness, different angle of consciousness. Framestar Films, peace and greetings. Once again, my friend. So, the three supernals, they can only be contacted through participation in their essential nature. Kether, pure being, is contacted when we win to realization of the nature of existence without any parts, attributes, or dimensions. This experience is aptly called the trance of annihilation. And those who experience it walk with God and are not, for God has taken them. Therefore, is the spiritual experience assigned to Kether that of divine union, of which it is said that those who experience it enter into the light and come not forth again. The Bible talks about somebody having that experience. In fact, I believe it happens to two people in the Bible. And she explained in the previous chapter, when your mind comes into that level, into that state, you begin to process reality different because you have a different set of equipment to work with. And to try to bring that back to this set of equipment, it's not compatible anymore. It's not compatible anymore. Interesting. Iwin says Enoch or Enoch in the Bible. Absolutely. Enoch and I believe one other person. You might have to look it up. All right. 20. In order to contact Chokmah, we must experience the rush of the dynamic cosmic energy in its pure form. An energy so tremendous that mortal man is fused into disruption by it. It is recorded that when Semele, mother of Dionysus, saw Zeus, her divine lover, in his god form as the thunderer, she was blasted and burnt. Well, damn. And gave birth to her divine son prematurely. The spiritual experience assigned to Chokmah is the vision of God face to face. And God, Jehovah, said to Moses, "Thou canst not look upon my face and live." Sheesh. 21. But although the sight of the divine Father blasts mortals as with fire, the divine Son comes familiarly along among them and can be invoked by the appropriate rites. Bacchanalia in the case of the son of Zeus, and the Eucharist in the case of the son of Jehovah. Ah, you've heard of the Eucharist, right? Some people do that every couple of Sundays. This is my body, eat of it. This is my blood, drink of it, right? I'm sure that most people that do that ritual don't understand or know what the hell they're doing. They just do it because that's what happens every fourth Sunday. But it is a ritual. It is a ritual with a meaning. That's why it is done repeatedly in churches across the world. Thank you, J. Baldale. Elijah was the other. So it was Enoch and Elijah. There we go. Appreciate that. Good stuff. Good stuff. Let's keep going. So, but although the sight of the divine Father blasts mortals as with fire, the divine Son comes familiarly among them and can be invoked by the appropriate rites. Bacchanalia in the case of the son of Zeus, and the Eucharist in the case of the son of Jehovah. These we see that there is a lower form of manifestation which shows us the Father. Let me read that again. Thus we see that there is a lower form of manifestation which shows us the Father, but that this right owes its validity solely to the fact that it derives its illuminating intelligence, its inner robe of glory, from the Father, Chokmah. J. Baldhill says Trav needs some Gibra help in these comments. I don't know where these people coming from. They won't be here long, I'll tell you that. Because if I ever get close to your ass, mister, you gonna have some reckoning to do. What is it gonna hurt if both of them kidneys is good? It ain't gonna hurt a motherfucking thing, because you ain't getting my kidneys, man. What is wrong with you? I'm just trying to live just like you trying to live. Well, let the Lord take care of me. Because what you talking about ain't got a damn thing to do with Jesus. You can kiss my ass, mister. You can kiss my ass and get off my phone. That's what you can do. Can I say one more thing to you and then I'm going to leave? For what? Is you listening to me? Man, I've been listening to you. You ain't talking about nothing. That's got nothing to do with me. You running the game? If I could get to you, I'll put lead in your motherfucking ass. You understand me? This is Nephew Tommy from the Steve Harvey Morning Show. You just got pranked by your daughter. Oh, Lord, that girl? Lord. Okay. 22. The grade of initiation corresponding to Chokmah is said to be that of mages. Aww. And the magical weapons assigned to that grade are the phallus and the inner robe of glory. Hey, check that out. The phallus and the inner robe of glory. Well, I guess that explains the wardrobe, huh? I'll read that again because it's funny. 22. The grade of initiation corresponding to Chokmah is said to be that of magus, and the magical weapons assigned to that grade are the phallus and the inner robe of glory. This teaches us that these symbols have a microcosmic or psychological significance, as well as a macrocosmic or mystical one. Holy shit. What kind of battle are we going into? What kind of battle are we going into when these are the two magical weapons you need? I bestow upon thee two magical weapons, the phallus and that silk robe. You need that phallus and that silk robe, and you in there. Armed, armed. This teaches us that these symbols have a microcosmic or psychological significance, as well as a macrocosmic or mystical one. The inner robe of glory must surely signify the inner light, which lighteth every man that cometh into the world, the spiritual vision whereby the mystic discerns spiritual things, the subjective form of the illuminating intelligence referred to in the Yetziradic text. A robe and a rod. A robe and a rod. Oh my gosh. And if you look at the iconography, it's literally turned into a rod, like like a scepter. Um, One good example is if you look at the Emperor tarot card. Uh, do I have that next to me? Actually, look at the Emperor and the Hierophant and the Empress. Look at the tarot card of the Empress, the Emperor, and the Hierophant. And really, you could put the Fool in there for a stretch. All of them hold a scepter, don't they? All right, peep the symbology here. Peep the symbology here. If you look at this, now look at this. You got Chokmah here, the emperor sitting on his throne with his robe and his rod, the Hierophant sitting on his throne with his robe and his rod, the empress sitting on her throne with her robe and her rod, the fool, you know what I'm saying? He's doing his thing. He's got his staff and his bag, but he ain't seated. Interesting. Interesting. I wonder if that's one of those coincidences, huh? One of those random things that don't mean anything. Now look at this. Madness, the madness keeps attracting. Madness, the magnet keeps attracting me. I try to run, but see, I'm not that fast. I think I'm first, but surely finish last. Last. Because day and night. This teaches us that these symbols have a microcosmic or psychological significance as well as a macrocosmic or mystical one. The inner robe of glory must surely signify the inner light which lighteth every man that cometh into the world, the spiritual vision whereby the mystic discerns spiritual things, the subjective form of the illuminating intelligence referred to in the Yetziratic text. Iwin says, was that a Kid Cudi reference? Now look at this. Magnet to madness keeps attracting. Yeah, kind of like Binah keeps pulling on Chokmah, keeps pulling that rod. 23. The phallus or lingam is given as one of the magical weapons of the initiate operating the grade of Chokmah. This tells us that a knowledge of the spiritual significance of sex and the cosmic significance of polarity concern this grade. Anyone who can see beneath the surface in things mystical and magical cannot fail to be aware of the fact that in the understanding of the tremendous and mysterious potency, which we call sex in one of its manifestations, lies the key to a very great deal. It is not for nothing that sexual imagery pervades the visions of the seer, from the Song of Songs to the interior castle. What did Jodeci say? Every time I close my eyes, I wake up feeling so horny. Right? Well, that's not an accident. That's literally part of the manifestation of this Chokmah force. I mean, shit, you have a human body. You can't help it. Every time I close. Every time. And look at what she says. It is not for nothing that sexual imagery pervades the visions of the seer. So look, some of you actually do meditate, right? Some of you actually sit down and try to meditate. Sometimes you got to get past certain visions that pop up. You got to get past certain scenarios or memories that come up to mind, right? And there's a level of mastery where you can use that, where you can use those things. Because if you look at the mages on the tarot deck, he's able to use anything as a tool. I don't give a damn about nothing else. Freaking you is all I need. Dang, man. 24. It must not be thought from this that I advocate orgiastic rites as the way of initiation. But I may as well say plainly that without the right understanding of the esoteric aspect of sex, the path is a blind alley. Freud spoke the truth to his generation when he pointed to sex as a key to psychopathology. He erred, in my opinion, when he made it the only key to the nine chambered soul of man. As there can be no health of subconsciousness without harmony of sex life, so there can be no positive or dynamic working upon the plane of superconsciousness unless the laws of polarity are understood and observed. So look, there are laws of polarity. In fact, there are a few specific laws of polarity that are dealing with the tree. Now, if you're somebody starting out, you know what I'm saying, you're still kind of fresh, the Kabbalion will give you so much wisdom concerning laws of polarity. But if you've been chewing on the Kabbalion for a couple of years and you know the seven Hermetic principles by heart, perhaps you can move a little bit further to the polarities on the tree itself. And see if I can pull those up for you. Tonight, you there it is. So there are polarities on the tree itself, right? And I've been over this before. Some of you all have seen it. Oh dang, I lost a bookmark. Oh well. Check this out. The double letters, planets, localities, days, gateways, contrast, right? So I mean, yeah, the portals and the gateways and the shifts and all that stuff, it's not all completely made up. There is some substance to it. But in any case, we're talking about these polarities. So check this out specifically. If you can see the diagram here, you got the Fool. This you see this. This is what 777 actually is. If you've never seen this before, 777, right? That's the lightning path down the tree, from Kether to Chokmah to Binah. This is the path of manifestation, from the top to the bottom. This is actually the flaming sword that the angels wield. This is that lightsaber that they wield to keep Adam and Eve out of heaven, right? It's all symbolic. So you'll notice from this 777 path, there are paths that have not been touched, right? These paths haven't been touched. That one hasn't been touched. That's the serpent path, going back up the opposite way. See, this is how you came down the tree into manifestation. This is how you specifically were enjoying your time as an upright rod, but then you got caught up in some bina and you didn't want to leave. So now you find yourself right here listening to me on YouTube. We both find ourselves here talking about our experience. But in this dance here, there are polarities. Check this out. 7 polarities specifically. The first one is the magician, Mercury, the polarity of life and death. The next is the Empress, the polarity of peace and war. The High Priestess, the Moon, represents the polarity of wisdom, folly. The Wheel of Fortune, Jupiter, represents the polarity of riches, poverty. The Tower of Mars represents the polarity of grace, indignation. The Sun represents fertility, barrenness, polarity. And the Universe card, the 32nd path, represents the polarity of power and servitude. Now, see, these are the 7 um, balances in life that we all must overcome, right? All of us are subject to an imbalance, and most likely all of those things, most likely all of those things. And it's our duty to come to an inner balance between each one of these polarities, an inner balance between life, death, peace, war, right? What happens when you unite peace and war? What happens when you have the power to cause peace or cause war? What do you do with that? How do you apply that to yourself, right? These are serious things to ponder, serious things to think about, because the answers come with the solving of your life's problems. But until then, make sure that you understand what the Kabbalion has to say. Nice, nice. Uh-oh. I see mention of that monitoring spirit. This is the first time I've seen it, y'all. I've officially got monitoring spirit on my radar. All right, let's keep going. Chickadee China, the Chinese chicken. You have a drumstick, and your brain starts ticking, or whatever Kanye West said. So we're talking about these polarities. Freud spoke the truth to this generation when he pointed to sex as a key to psychopathology. He erred, in my opinion, when he made it the only key to the nine-chambered soul of man, as there can be no health of subconsciousness without harmony of sex life. So there can be no positive or dynamic working upon the plane of superconsciousness unless the laws of polarity are understood and observed, right? The laws of polarity have to be understood and observed in order for dynamic working. What's dynamic, right? What's the opposite? Passive. Dynamic means you actually getting up there and doing something. Dynamic work upon the superconscious plane requires you to have the laws of polarity understood and observed. To many mystics, seeking refuge from matter and spirit. This may be a hard saying, but experience will prove it a true one. Therefore, it must be said, though there may be few thanks for saying it. My gnosis says the monitoring spirit is Chokmah in his robe and rod. Boom. Man, that's funny. Can't make this shit up. 25. The tremendous downrush of the Chokmah force invoked through the divine four-lettered name comes from the macrocosmic yod to the microcosmic yod, and is then sublimated. Pay attention. This is circled. The tremendous downrush of the Chokmah force invoked through the divine four-lettered name, tetragrammaton, yod he vav he, comes from the macrocosmic yod to the microcosmic yod, and is then sublimated. Unless the subconscious mind is free from disassociations and repressions, and all the parts of the many sided nature of man are coordinated and synchronized, reactions and pathological symptoms are the result of that down rush. What did she say right there? What did she say right there? If you haven't done your shadow work, if you haven't dealt with your insecurities, if you haven't dealt with your projections and your confusions, if you haven't dealt with your humanity, if and when you attempt to work with this type of energy, oh yeah, it'll come down through you and it's going to manifest through these crooked thought processes that you have, through these broken thought processes that you have, these damaged and traumatized, unhealed thought processes that you have. And that's what normally happens with people who dabble with magic, having done no type of self work, right? You want to summon up demons to get revenge on somebody, summon up demons to get laid, or summon up demons to get some money real quick. And most of the time, all these things are the results of unhealed trauma. And it doesn't heal the trauma. If anything, it makes it worse. It agitates it, right? I'll read that again, right? And shit, look, the yod, right? Remember what she said. Chokmah is the yod of the tetragrammaton. The lingam, the penetrating force, the stimulating force, the agitating force. Pay attention to these words. The tremendous downrush of the Chokmah force, invoked through the divine four-lettered name, comes from the macrocosmic yod, that's the big cosmic Purusha, to the microcosmic yod, that's you, and is then sublimated. What does sublimated mean? Somebody look up sublimated. Perhaps that's a word that needs to be fleshed out. Sublimate. Somebody hit me with that sublimate definition. Or did all my people leave me? Is it a game on or something tonight? Is a sports ball game on tonight? Maybe all that lingam talk scared them off. No, it was the rod and the robe. That's what it was. It was the rod and the robe. I guess I'll look up sublimated. Sublimated. Let's see. Tell me what you want. Okay, so sublimate means to change the form of something, particularly in a psychological context where it refers to redirecting an instinctual desire into a more socially acceptable form. Okay, to be transformed directly from to modify the natural expression in a socially acceptable manner. Okay, that makes sense. To sublimate it, right? So you might have that animal impulse, that knee jerk reaction, that raised up racism, but then you have to make it socially acceptable. By the way, there's the quote that I was talking about from Dion Fortune. All gods are one god, and all goddesses are one goddess. And there is one initiator. Funny because I think we're talking about that initiator. Interessante. All right, so yeah, we're talking about transmutation. Yeah. Okay, so yeah, good. We have an idea of sublimate. So let's check that part out again. The tremendous downrush of the Chokmah force invoked through the divine four-letter name comes from the macrocosmic yod to the microcosmic yod, and it is then sublimated. So do you see what she's saying here? Remember when we were talking about that yod, we're talking about that symbolic lingam, right? So the downrush of the Chokmah force. Remember, the Chokmah force is just blasting out. It's not no real intention, no real direction. It's literally just pure explosive raw energy, and that is pulled down, invoked through the four-lettered name, right, on the macrocosmic level, and is brought down to the lower plane, the microcosmic level. But it's not used as is. It isn't possible, right? Because we talked about how that force is pure and undifferentiated, and it's not a thing. It's raw energy. So it has to be sublimated. Otherwise, what happens? Otherwise, what happens? Unless the subconscious mind is free from disassociations and repressions, and all the parts of the many sided nature of man are coordinated and synchronized, reactions and pathological symptoms are the result of that downrush. So if you haven't been doing work on yourself, when you pull this energy down, it's not going to be sublimated. It's going to express itself through the cracks. It's going to express itself through your weaknesses, through your personality flaws, your quirks, your insecurities. This does not mean that the invoker of Zeus is necessarily a worshiper of Priapus, but it does mean that no man can sublimate a disassociation. A dissociation. So what's that mean? Are there aspects of yourself that you dissociate? Are there parts of yourself that you deny, that you reject? Again, the shadow work that isn't done. Because if there's parts of you that you deny, that you reject, that you fight against, you run from, it can't be sublimated because it's being denied, it's being repressed. Hmm. So again, this does not mean that the invoker of Zeus is necessarily a worshiper of Priapus, but it does not mean that no man can sublimate a dissociation. When the channel is free from obstructions, the downrushing force can swing round the nadir and become an uprushing force, which can be directed to any sphere or turned into any channel that is desired. But, like it or not, it will be a downrushing force before it is an uprushing one. And unless our feet are firmly planted on elemental earth, we shall be like bursting wineskins. Zero. Peace, peace. So I hope you understood that. And I've said this before. When she's talking about this nadir, when she's talking about um, swinging around the nadir, she's talking about. I showed you that image of the 777, that lightning path coming down. That's the pure force, the pure soul, whatever, coming down for the first time, hitting Malkuth. But it doesn't stay there, or at least it's not supposed to stay there. It then, once it touches down at the bottom, it has to work its way back up. That's your spiritual work, doing the work back upwards, right? So what she's saying here is, even if you're pulling down energy for your ceremony, for your ritual, for whatever, it must go through that same process, through that same path. So she says, when the channel, which is you, your mind, I should say, your framework of how you process reality, when that framework of how you process reality is free from obstructions, that downrushing force can come all the way down and can swing around the nadir, right? It can hit Malkuth and go right back up like it's supposed to, and become an uprushing force, right? So when it swings back around to head back towards Kether, it's going just as fast, just as potent, just as powerful. We're talking about manifestation here. And not only that, it can be directed to any sphere or turned into any channel that is desired, which is why it's helpful to know about the paths on the tree, right? But like it or not, it will be a downrushing force before it is an uprushing one. So you cannot bypass, you cannot skip the process of organizing your inner framework in a solid way, right? In a solid, stable way. If your mind isn't solid and stable, if the way that you process reality is flawed, hence why I mentioned things like cognitive biases, right? These assumptions, these NPC algorithms that you got running in your head. That's going to cause this type of force to not go where it's supposed to go because we delete, distort, and generalize. And unless our feet are firmly planted on elemental earth, we shall be like bursting wineskins. Zero says, I manifested with obstruction of the ignorance of some deep parts of my shadow. And man, that was really heavy, but amazing lessons in the experience. Yes, sir. I think we all have, right? It's a necessary part. We have to, I would say, so we can see what it's like, so we can know what it's like to not do it right. 26. Every practical occultist knows that Freud has spoken the truth, even though it is not the whole truth. But they are afraid to say so for fear of being accused of phallic worship and orgiastic practices. These things have their place, though it is not in the temple of the Holy Spirit, and to deny them their place is a folly for which the Victorian age paid dearly in a rich harvest of psychopathology. Everything has its place, even if you don't like it. Everything belongs somewhere, especially this whole business about sex. Now, today, we're not like how they were in the past. I think we have a different set of problems to deal with as far as our understanding and association with sex. 27. Whenever we are working dynamically upon any plane, we are operating the right hand pillar on the tree and derive our primary energy from the yod force of Chokmah. In this connection, we must refer to the fact that The microcosmic correspondence of Chokmah is given as the left side of the face. The macrocosmic and the microcosmic correspondences play an important part in the practical workings. Macrocosm, or great man, did I skip something? No. Yeah. Okay. The macrocosm or great man is, of course, the universe itself. So once again, when she says macrocosm, we're talking about Purusha. We're talking about the one soul that exists, right? Great man, the universe itself, the all. The all is mind. The universe is mental. That type thing. And the microcosm is the individual man. That's me. That's you, right? So if I know that you've got this text. If you look back over the first sentence in verse number 25, the macrocosm is the universe, the microcosm is you, right? The yod, look at this. The tremendous downrush of the Chokmah force invoked through the divine four-lettered name comes from the macrocosmic yod to the microcosmic yod and is then sublimated. I've heard some teachers say that the microcosmic yod would be the pineal gland or the third eye. That's what I've heard. Perhaps you could meditate on that, see if it corresponds with things that make sense. Wait a minute now. I can't believe this. Oh, there we go. Thanks. It took me a while. I was about to say. Dip all tail, I give you a wrench. That's funny. I didn't see, at least on the StreamYard, it took a little bit of a delay, but I see. I see the sword of Gibra has been swung. Rods have been sliced off. All right, let's keep going. Um, all right, where we at? Vivekananda mentioned. So, yeah, the microcosmic man. The microcosm is you individually, the macrocosm is the universe. All right. It is said that man is the only being that has a fourfold nature exactly corresponding in its levels to the cosmos. The angels lack the lower planes, and the animals lack the higher planes. Aw, my cats. And wouldn't that make sense about our relationship to the elemental forces, right? They lack the higher planes. And what I've learned earlier is that that's also kind of exemplified or demonstrated by the strength card. Um, the elemental kings reach up to that barrier of Tifereth of the strength card. That's as high up as the elemental forces, at least their intelligent aspects, go. So the woman wrestling with that lion represents the higher self having this relationship with the elemental kings. I'll read that again. It is said that man is the only being that has a fourfold nature exactly corresponding in its levels to the cosmos. The angels lack the lower planes, and the animals lack the higher planes. 28. The references to the microcosm should not, of course, be taken crudely as representing the parts of the physical body. Right? So this goes to the person who asked about that earlier. I don't know if he's still here or not. I'd have to scroll up too far to find his name because the chat was bombarded with all kinds of things that did not relate to this information. But anyway, somebody asked a question about this exact thing earlier, right? Um, the references to the microcosm, because remember she said up here it represents the individual man. It should not, of course, be taken crudely as representing the parts of the physical body. There he is. I win. So boom, here it is. I thought we already covered it, but no, we're actually getting here now. The references are to the aura and the functions of the magnetic currents in the aura. And it must always be borne in mind, as a Swami Vivekananda points out, that what is on the right in the male is on the left in the female. In addition, and he's not the only one that says that. You'll also find this in the teachings of Franz Bardon. If anybody's ever gone through the book Initiation into Hermetics, he says that right at the beginning. Man, that was an experience, boy. That was an experience. Has anybody seriously attempted to go through initiation into Hermetics? Like all the way through? Or even if not all the way through, but like how far did you make it? That's certainly worth your time if you're somebody looking for a practical path to follow on your own. Like if you don't have a guru, teacher, or whatever, and you're serious, get initiation into Hermetics and actually follow it. It's not easy, but it will certainly unlock higher senses for you. Um, the type that you can, that you'll know for a fact, right? And not just have to like, well, I think it's working. Maybe I'm psychic. But anyways, he talks about this as well. In addition to this, man, wouldn't that be an interesting book study? The first time I read Mystical Qabalah live, we were doing Mystical Qabalah and Initiation to Hermetics side by side. We had to put Initiation to Hermetics down, boy. That was way too much. Way too much for the average viewer. But, anyways, in addition to this, it must be remembered that what is positive on the physical plane is negative on the astral plane. Mm. It is positive again on the mental plane and negative on the spiritual plane, as it as is indicated in the twinning black and white serpents of the Caduceus of Mercury. Ugh. There's another picture. There's a picture of that in this book. If I can't find it quickly, then I'll just keep going. But it helps to see the symbols because, as Bobby Hemmett says, they unlock certain things in your subconscious. That's why I keep going to these books and trying to pull up the imagery. And an image will stick in your head a lot longer than words will. Perhaps images are a better yod, a better rod. All right, I'll stop. Where is that image? Come and talk to me. I really wanna meet you. I really wanna know you. What the hell, man? I could have sworn this was in the beginning of the book. Oh well. Anyways, there's a picture of the four worlds encircled by the black and white spinning serpents, the Caduceus. These things are usually easy to find. It might be hiding from me right now. Come on, come on, come on. Come and talk to me. I really wanna meet you. Can I talk to you? Really wanna know you. Alright, it doesn't look like the image is making itself known to me, even though I broke out the Jodeci. I guess it doesn't work on books. Said I'm feeling for you. I don't ever mind. Oh, oh, no. Baby, girl. Fuck it. It's all good. You guys know what she's talking about. All I do is wish for you. So tomorrow, if you're not here, girl, I'm down. So I need you. I Win says, how did you become so advanced? Are there any shortcuts? I just told you what, man. Get initiation into Hermetics and follow what that book says. It might take you a long time, but at least you'll be on the right path. Come on, come on, come on. All right. Anyways, um, what is positive on the physical plane is negative on the astral plane. Remember this. This is something that you're going to need to understand the further that you go in Kabbalistic study. Okay? So just like he said, what is right on the male is left on the female, that goes for the tree too. So what's positive on the physical is negative on the astral plane. So in other words, let's say in the physical plane, the positive, the masculine would be me talking and teaching and telling people and 1111 nobody told me, talking and teaching and advising people and directing people with my words, right? That's the masculine. But on the astral plane, what words actually are being received, or I should say speaking is more of attracting things to you, right? So on the physical plane, you talking to people, you putting ideas in people's head, you're kind of moving other folks with your words. But on the astral plane, it's your words that attract things to you. On the physical plane, you receive emotions, but on the astral, you push them out as a way of navigation. So, what is positive on the physical plane is negative on the astral plane. It is positive again on the mental plane and negative on the spiritual plane, as is indicated in the twinning black and white serpents of the Caduceus of Mercury. If this Caduceus be placed upon the tree, that's the image I was looking for. It wasn't popping up, so you'll have to imagine it. If this Caduceus be placed upon the tree, when the tree is marked off to represent the four worlds of the Kabbalist, a glyph is formed which reveals the workings of the law of polarity in relation to the planes. Mm. This is a very important glyph and yields a great deal to meditation. I feel like her saying that means go look for it again. All right. I'll try one more time. That's usually not a picture that I flip to, so I don't have muscle memory of it. Perhaps table of contents can tell me where it is. Two ways of representing that which is encompassed by Mercury. That might be it. Page 240. If anybody has this book, there it is. What kind of nonsense? All right, so yeah, I guess I had to read it again in order to find it, but I found it. Um, yeah. So one more time, what is positive on the physical plane is negative on the astral plane. It is positive again on the mental plane and negative on the spiritual plane, as is indicated in the twinning black and white serpents of the Caduceus of Mercury. If this Caduceus be placed upon the tree, when the tree is marked off to represent the four worlds of the Kabbalist, a glyph is formed, which reveals the workings of the law of polarity in relation to the planes. This is a very important glyph and yields a great deal to meditation. So here's the glyph. Feast your eyes on this. There it is. Physical plane, astral plane, mental plane, spiritual plane. What is positive here is negative here, is positive here is negative here. In other words, the polarities flip. They flip. Another thing to notice is, hmm, we'll just keep it one thing at a time. So yeah, that's what this is. The four worlds on Mercury's Caduceus. Got it? Good. The four worlds here are not the wand, they are that which is transmitted by the wand of the magician. Cool. Come and talk to me. Ela asks Travis, do you practice any of the African traditional religions? Not consciously, I'd say. Not consciously. 29. From this, we learn that when the soul is in a female incarnation, it will function negatively in Asaya and Bria, but positively in Yetzirah and Atziluth. In other words, a woman is physically and mentally negative, but physically and spiritually positive. And the reverse holds true, holds good for a man. So you understand that? A woman would function negatively on Asaya, positively on Yetzirah. Let me say it again. A woman would function negatively on the physical plane, positively on the astral plane, negative in the mental plane, and positive on the spiritual plane. A man operates positively on the physical plane, negatively on the astral plane, positively on the mental plane, and negatively on the spiritual plane. That is certainly something that you can work with if you're either a male or female person. In initiates, however, there is a considerable degree of compensation. For each learns the technique of both positive and negative psychic methods, right? Ultimately, you're supposed to learn how to operate both ways on all planes because the goal is to be harmonized, middle path, not polarized. Right. So in initiates, however, there is a considerable degree of compensation. For each learns the technique of both positive and negative psychic methods. The divine spark, which is the nucleus of every living soul, is of course bisexual, containing the roots of both aspects, as does Kether, to which it corresponds. And the more highly evolved souls, the compensating aspect is developed in some degree at least. The purely female woman and the purely male man prove to be oversexed as judged by civilized standards and can only find an appropriate place in primitive societies where fertility is the primary demand that society makes upon women and hunting and fishing are the constant occupation of men. I guess that varies from neighborhood to neighborhood, huh? 30. This does not mean, however, that the physical functions of the sexes are perverted in the initiate, right? She's not talking about that. Or that the configuration of the body is modified. She's not talking about that. Esoteric science teaches us that the physical form and racial type, which the soul assumes in each incarnation, are determined by destiny or karma, and that the life has to be worked out and lived accordingly. It is advisable for us, it is inadvisable, right? She would recommend that you not do this. It is inadvisable for us to play tricks with our type, racial or physical. And we should always accept it as the basis of our operations and choose our methods accordingly. There are certain operations and certain offices in the lodge for which a male vehicle is more suitable than a female vehicle. And when practical work is on hand, the officers in a ceremony are selected on type. But when the routine training of an initiate is in progress, it is the custom to let everyone take turns at the different offices in order that they may learn to handle the different types of force and so become equilibrated. 31. Benjamin Kidd, in his very stimulating book, The Science of Power, points out that the highest type of human being approximates to the infantile. We observe the enormous relative size of the head as compared with the body weight in the infant, and that the secondary sexual characteristics are not present. We find the same tendency appearing in a modified form in the civilized adult. The highest type of man is not a hirsute gorilla, nor is the highest type of woman an exaggerated mammal. The tendency of evolution and civilization is to an approximation of type between the sexes so far as the secondary sexual characteristics are concerned. What percentage of city dwelling males could grow a really patriarchal beard? The primary sexual character, however, must be maintained unimpaired or the race speedily dies out. Most Epicene moderns who fill the divorce courts with abundant evidence of their overflowing philoprogenitiveness. Dion Fortune. I feel like she just said something real slick in that last line. It went over my head, so I'm gonna have to look up philoprogenitiveness and see who she was sneak dissing just then. Philoprogenitiveness. Underlay, mama, yeah, yeah, oh. What's poppin' tonight? I'm a sucker for cornrows, manicured toes. Wait a minute. A sucker for manicured toes. Nelly, what are we talking about here? Philoprogenitive definition. Tending to produce offspring. Prolific. Okay. Someone who is philoprogenitive likes to have a lot of children. Okay. All right, so let's go back to what she said there. Sunshine Chick says philoprogenitiveness is a word that describes a person or thing that is characterized by a love for offspring and the production of offspring, especially in large numbers. I've met a few people like that for sure. So what did she say here in that last line? The primary sexual character, however, must be maintained unimpaired or the race speedily dies out. And we have no reason to believe that this is the case, even among our most epicene moderns who fill the divorce courts with abundant evidence of their overflowing philoprogenitiveness. Okay, so having a bunch of kids with other people than your spouse. Louis, peace, peace. Interesting. 32. These things we can understand in the light that there is thrown on them when they are placed upon the tree. The two pillars, the positive under Chokmah and the negative under Binah, correspond respectively to the Ida and Pingala of the yoga systems. These two magnetic currents running in the aura parallel to the spine are called the sun and moon currents. In a male incarnation, we work hmm? In a male incarnation, we work predominantly with the sun current, the fertilizer. In a female incarnation, we work predominantly with the moon forces. If we desire to work with the opposite type of force to that which we are naturally endowed, we have to do so by using our natural mode as the basis of operations and, as it were, cannoning off the cushion. The male who wants to use the moon forces employs devices that enable him to get his natural sun force reflected. And the female who wants to use the sun forces employs a device whereby she is enabled to focus them upon herself and reflect them. On the physical plane, the sex is mate, and the man begets a child upon the woman, thus availing himself of her moon powers. The woman, on the other hand, desiring creation and unable to compass it single handed, entices the male through his desires till he bestows upon her his sun force, and she is impregnated. She's dropping some hints here. She dropped 3 hints in that last paragraph right there. I like this book a lot. 33. In magical workings, the man or woman who desires to work with the opposite type of force to that of their physical vehicle, and it is part of the routine of occult training that they should do so, shifts the level of consciousness onto a plane on which they find themselves of the requisite polarity and works thereon. The priest of Osiris sometimes employs the elemental spirits to supplement his polarity, and the priestess of Isis invokes angelic influences. The priest of Osiris reaches down, the priestess of Isis reaches up. Yeah, she's giving you some clues here, if such a thing is what you desired to do. Framestar Films says meditate in either moonlight or sunlight with varying intention, just like spellwork. Just like spellwork. 34. Because manifestation takes place through the pairs of opposites, the principle of polarity is implicit not only in the macrocosm, but also in the microcosm. By understanding it and knowing how to avail ourselves of the potentialities it affords, we can raise our natural powers far above their normal. We can use our environment as a thrust block. We can look for the potent Chokmah force in books. And didn't she already describe the Chokmah force in books in our racial tradition, right? We got homie Elah talking about Ifa, trying to get me to do some Ifa. We can look for it in books, in our racial tradition, in our religion, and our friends and associates. From all these, we can receive the stimulus that fecundates us and makes us creative mentally, emotionally, and dynamically. We make our environment play Hogma to our Bina. She's telling you equally, we can play Hogma to its Bina. Upon the subtle planes, polarity is not fixed, but it is relative. You get that? So, in other words, the subtle planes are not masculine or feminine. It depends on what time you're on, it depends on what you're working with. That which is more forceful than ourselves is positive towards us, right? It's masculine towards us and renders us negative towards itself. That which is less forceful than we are in any given aspect is negative towards us, and we can assume the positive role towards it. This fluidic, ever fluctuating, subtle polarity is one of the most important points in the practical workings. Practical, affecting your health, wealth, relationships, thoughts, emotions. If we understand it and avail ourselves of it, we can do some very remarkable things and put our lives and our relations with our environment on an altogether different basis. Yo, 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 yo. So, for those of you who are watching this video multiple times, for those of you who are watching it again with your physical book to take some notes, make sure you understand what she just said in 32, 33, 34. She's literally telling you what to do. I mean, maybe not so literally, but she's breaking down something very powerful. Very powerful because she's telling you how to stir up the higher planes, how to shake some things up to get what you want. She just told you that if you're whatever in your environment is more forceful to you, that is the masculine force and you become the feminine force to it. And whatever you're more forceful to in your environment, you're the masculine force to it. This is not about good and bad, right and wrong, better or worse. It depends on your intention. What are you trying to do? Because it is beneficial to be feminine to certain things, and it's beneficial to be masculine towards certain things. It's also detrimental to be in the wrong polarity, in the wrong context, right? You got to learn how to dance the Prakriti, because that's all she does is dance. And you standing stiff over here getting beat across the head. Get your back up off the wall. Get your back up off the wall, right? J. Baldhill says chaos magicians know that fluidic has a double meaning. Uh oh. Standing on the wall. Great stuff right here. Number 35. We must learn to know when we can function as Chokmah and beget deeds upon the world, and when we had best function as Binah and make our environment fertilize us so that we become productive. Yeah, I'm going through a phase right now where I'm having to shift these functions, right? You can wait on chance, or you can pick up that rod and stir up that soup, get some things moving and grooving. Thank you, Sunshine Chick. Please hit the chat button. Excuse me, please hit the like button if you have not hit the like button. I mean, if you like this content. All right, let's keep it moving. So we must learn to know when we can function as Chokmah and beget deeds upon the world. And we had best function as Binah and make our environment fertilize us so that we become productive. We must never forget that self fertilization involves sterility in a few generations. Mm. And that we must ever and again be fertilized by the medium in which we are working. There must be an interplay of polarity between us and whatever we have set out to do. And we must always be on the alert to find polarizing influences, whether in tradition or in books or in fellow workers in the same field, or even in the very opposition and antagonism of enemies. For there is just as much polarizing force in a hearty hatred as there is in love, if we know how to use it. Right? Where my Sith people at? Or my dark side Sith people at? We must have stimulus if we are to create anything, even a useful life well lived. Chokmah is the cosmic stimulus. Whatever stimulates is assigned to Chokmah in the classification of the tree. Sedatives are assigned to Binah. We sh- mm, hmm. So whatever stimulates, that's assigned to Chokmah. So that would include coffee, Red Bull, that type of thing. Sedatives are assigned to Binah. So well, those of you who like to smoke the tweed, alcohol, Interesting. Ultra instinct. Peace, peace. Framestar Film says, look for the masculine and feminine ingredients in the cake you want to bake. I love that this puts you in the driver's seat, right? I was going to say it puts it in your hands, but, you know, the metaphors that have been coming up so far, that might not be so good. This type of information puts you in the driver's seat. Like, it really gives you the choice. If you really can read what she's saying here, it's up to you. You don't wait on nothing. You don't have to wait on anything. You can get the ball rolling. Ranks Curve says weed does cause estrogen to be produced. Hmm. I did not know that. Estrogen. Interesting. Get your back up off the wall. So whatever stimulates is assigned to Chokmah in the classification of the tree. Sedatives are assigned to Binah. We shall obtain further insight into this principle of cosmic polarity as we study Binah, the third Sephiroth, for it is hardly possible to understand the implications of Chokmah without reference to its polarizing opposite, with which it always functions. We will therefore carry no further our study of polarity at the present time, but conclude our examination of Chokmah by reference to the cards attributed to it in the tarot pack, and resume our research into the most significant subject when Binah has afforded us further data. 36. As was noted in the chapter upon Kether, the four suits in the tarot pack are assigned to the four elements. And we saw that the four aces represented the roots of the powers of those elements. The four twos are assigned to Chokmah and represent polarized functioning of these elements in harmonized, balanced, right? So polarized functioning of the elements in a harmonized balance. Therefore, a two is always a card of harmony. So let's start with the Two of Wands, right? And they called it Dominion. Get a good visual here. This fellow about to expand his enterprises, open up some businesses and on the south side. So let's start there. So the Two of Wands, which is assigned to the element of fire, is called the Lord of Dominion. The wand is essentially a male phallic symbol and is attributed to Chokmah. So we may take this card as meaning polarization, the positive that has found its mate in the negative and is in equilibrium. There is no antagonism or resistance to the Lord of Dominion. Who gonna stop me? But a contented land accepts his rule. Binah fulfilled accepts her mate. So that's what this symbolizes. The masculine is those wands standing upright, and the land is ready to be taken. They're both ready for each other. The conqueror and the conquered. So this is a card of, those the two forces meet and they're ready to go. So in the future, when you see this card come up for your endeavors or whatever you're trying to do, this would be a really good card to see, right? Because that means that the ground is fertile and ready for you to plant the seed and enjoy a bountiful harvest once it, rains and shines a bit. So that's really good, right? That's really cool. Let's check out the Two of Cups, right? Get a good glimpse at this. Two of Cups. You see these two people. It's hard to tell by the style of dress because, uh, but anyways, we got your favorite figure at the top there. We got that Caduceus again. And look, one, two, three, four loops, right? The four worlds. Remember the image I showed you? They're exchanging their cups. They look like they're on good terms. Let's get going. What's this all about? The Two of Cups, water, is called the Lord of Love. And here again, we have the concept of harmonious polarization. Harmonious polarization. The Two of Swords, right? This is the Two of Swords. Remember, we already analyzed this a little bit. We got the still water in the back. We got that crescent moon. Got the blindfold. Sitting on the dock of the bay. The Two of Swords, air, is called the Lord of Peace Restored, indicating that the disruptive force of swords is in temporary equilibrium. Ah, and let's see, finally, this dude right here with his Chokmah style hat. Ah, now it makes sense. That's why he got that long, upright hat. Now it makes sense. I get it. Let's see what it has to say about that. The Two of Pentacles, Earth, is called the Lord of Harmonious Change. Here, as in Sword, we see a modification of the essential nature of the elemental force by its polarizing opposite, thus inducing equilibrium. The disruptive force of Swords is restored to peace, and the inertia and resistance of Earth becomes, when polarized by the influence of Chokmah, a balanced rhythm. Ah, okay. So that makes sense. That makes sense. Okay. So typically, when you think about Earth, the Earth element is inert. It is still. It's not moving. So when the Chokmah force, that vibrant bursting out, comes into contact with the Earth element, now the Earth element is put into motion. So since Earth is still and inert, the opposite would be motion. But they come into a harmony through what? Rhythm. Rhythm is the balance between inertia and wild activity. So that's why we've got the juggling of the pentacles. That's why the waves are carrying the ships up and down, up and down. It's the rhythm that's important about this card. Cool beans. Cool beans. 41. These four cards indicate the Chokmah force in polarity. That is to say, the essential balance of power as it manifests in the four worlds of the Kabbalists. When they appear in a divination, they indicate power in equilibrium. Power in equilibrium. They do not indicate a dynamic force, as might be expected where Chokmah is concerned. Because Chokmah, being one of the supernals, its force is positive upon the subtle planes and consequently negative upon the planes of form. Remember, she told us about that? The negative aspect of a dynamic force is represented by equilibrium, polarity. The negative aspect of a negative potency is represented by destruction, as is shown in the glyph of Kali, the terrible wife of Shiva, girdled with skulls and dancing upon the body of her husband. So the positive aspect of Chokmah is dynamic outpouring, outbursting. The negative aspect of that is equilibrium, right? Balance, polarity. Hmm. The positive aspect of a negative potency is that it pulls in, it encapsulates, it gives form, it locks it in to stability. But the negative aspect of a negative potency is destruction. Destruction. Um, I don't know. Maybe write that down or kind of just take that in, right? Because if you're dealing with people someone who's dealing primarily in their masculine or primarily in their feminine, you know that the upside of the masculine is, what did she say, upbuilding, evolution, that type of thing, dynamism. But the negative aspect of that masculine force is equilibrium, polarity. Ah, the positive aspect of a negative force is magnetism, capturing and giving it form, giving it structure, binding it. But the negative aspect of the feminine is destruction. Kali and Durga. 42. This concept gives us a key to another of the many problems of the tree, the relative polarity of the Sephiroth. As has previously been explained, each Sephiroth is negative in its relation to those above it, from which it receives the influx of the emanations, and positive in relation to those beneath it, to which proceed from it, and to which it therefore acts as an emanator. Certain of the paired Sephiroth are, however, more definitely positive or more definitely negative in their nature. For instance, Chokmah is a positive positive, Binah is a positive negative, Chesed is a negative positive, Gibra is a negative negative. That's why it's destruction. Netzach, Venus, and Hod, Mercury, are said to be hermaphroditic. Yasod, Luna, is a positive negative. And Malkuth, Earth, is a negative negative. Dang. Negative negative. That's the Malkuth. Neither Kether nor Tifereth are predominantly male or female. In Kether, the pairs of opposites are latent and have not yet declared themselves. In Tifereth, they are in perfect equilibrium. Be nice to Gabriel. Hey, I love all the Sephiroth. I do. All three of y'all. Dude right there. Birdman. That's a funny character. I'm gonna show y'all what type of nigga I am. They been fucking with a nigga all night. Dude right there with the blue hat on. Dude right there. Perhaps nobody remembers that video. Let's keep going. 43. There are two ways in which transmutation can be effected on the tree, and these are indicated by two of the glyphs which are superimposed upon the Sephiroth. One of these is the glyph of the three pillars, and the other is the glyph of the lightning flash. We saw that earlier. The pillars have been already described. The lightning flash simply indicates the order of emanation of the Sephiroth, zigzagging from Chokmah to Binah, from Binah to Chesed, backwards and forwards across the tree. If transmutation takes place according to the lightning flash, the force changes its type. If transmutation takes place according to the pillars, it remains of the same type, but on a higher or lower arc, as the case may be. Does that make sense? Does anybody not get that line? I'm gonna show you what type of nigga I am. Dude right there with the blue hat on. And that's it. And dude right there, they been fucking with a nigga all night. Birdman, sit down, please. We're being recorded. All right. Well, I'm asking because, we could go to the images, but I think everybody knows what that means. All right. So, yeah, if transmutation takes place according to the lightning flash, which is the image I showed of the 777 flaming sword coming down, what's happening is that the force changes its type. So it's going from force to form to force to form, force to form. But if it's going down the pillars, right, from Binah to Gibra to Had, from Kether to Tifra to Yasad, from Chokmah to Chesed to Netzach, if it's going down like that, it's going to stay the same type, but it's changing like what dimension it's on, what vibration it's on. It's going to be a higher or lower arc. What do you mean by that? Well, like on the lower arc, it might just be a regular hamburger, but on a higher arc, it might be a double cheeseburger. And on a higher arc, closer to Kether, it might be a double quarter pounder with cheese combo, large fries, Sprite. It's the same type of thing, but on a different arc. 44. This sounds very complex and abstract, but examples will soon serve to show it to be simple and practical when understood. Take the problem of the sublimation of sex force, which besets the psychotherapists, concerning which they talk so glibly and say so little. In Malkuth, which in the microcosm is the physical body, sex force is in terms of ovum and spermatozoon, right? That's the sex force in Malkuth. In Yesod, the sex force, right, which is the etheric double, it is in terms of magnetic force, concerning which nothing is known to orthodox psychology, but concerning which we shall have a good deal to say under the heading of the appropriate Sephiroth. Had and Netzach are on the astral plane. And in Had, we find that the sex force is expressed in visual images. And in Netzach, in another and altogether subtler type of magnetism, popularly referred to as it. Mm, mm. Have you ever experienced it? I can't put a finger on what it is, but they just have it. They just got it. That star factor, that charisma, that certain thing that you just hmm. That's what the sex force is in Netzach. Very interesting. You can usually see it in the eyes, right? In Tifereth, the Christ Center, the force becomes spiritual inspiration, illumination, the influx from the higher consciousness. If it is positive in type, it becomes the Dionysiac inspiration, a divine inebriation. And if it is negative, it becomes the impersonal, all harmonizing Christ love. 45. When the transmutation is worked upon the pillars, we are impressed by the truth of the ironical French phrase, plus a change, plus c'est la même chose. Chokmah, pure dynamism, pure stimulus without formed expression, and chesed becomes the upbuilding, organizing aspect of evolution. Anabolism, as distinguished from the catabolism of Gibera. In chesed, the Chokmah force becomes that peculiarly subtle form of magnetism, which gives power of leadership and is the root of greatness. Equally, on the left hand pillar, the force restraining Binah becomes the form destroying Gibera. The force restraining Binah becomes the form destroying Gibera. And again, the maker of magical images, Mercury Hermes Thoth. I always find that to be one of the most peculiar relationships. How it goes from Binah to Gibera to Had. That's probably the strangest one to me. 46, excuse me, 46. From time to time, the symbols of occult science have leaked out into the popular knowledge, but the uninitiated have not understood the method of arranging these symbols in their pattern as the tree, nor of applying to them the alchemical principles of transmutation and distillation, wherein lie the real secrets of their use. I showed you some of that good stuff in the live stream I did earlier today. All right, so that was Chokmah, the upright rod, the staff of power, the inner robe of concealment, the upright stone, like a rock, oh, like a rock. Yeah, man, pretty interesting. I think that definitely gives a lot of insightful symbols to think about. Delicious, right? So yeah, we just went through Chokmah. It's only right that we give Binah the same level of attention and thorough examination, and we shall do that possibly Tuesday. Oh, thank you, Jet Bald Hill. That French phrase, I thought she was going to interpret that, but I guess not. The French phrase was, the more that changes, the more it's the same thing. I see. I see. I see. Manifest Money asks, Yo, Travis, what about authentic Kabbalah? What does that question mean? He says, what about authentic Kabbalah? What about it? What are you asking? Curse says, why is it strange to you? Um, I don't know. It kind of seems like the odd nephew or the odd cousin, right? Like he doesn't belong to that family, but he is related. Because I think of Bina, and I think of this. I don't know, like very stoic witch draped in all black. You know, not even witch, but like prime sorceress of magic. Then I think of Gibara as like this extremely not strict, but ready to go to war type of wild woman. All Bina needs to do is give the word, and this woman is going to cut heads, right? No forgiveness. And then there's Hod, which is like this bookworm, this nerdy geek sitting in a library, face down in books, and full of knowledge and wisdom, right? But they are all manifesting different arcs of manifestation of each other, from the hamburger to the double cheeseburger to the double quarter pounder with cheese with fries and a drink. They're in the same family, just on a different arc. It's strange to me how one can become the other, how they're related. That relationship is less strange to me than Chesed, Hakma Chesed, and Netzach, right? You go from the great father with the upright rod to the peaceful king sitting on his throne of a super successful kingdom, down to their beautiful daughter, Aphrodite, Venus, frolicking through nature. And that makes sense to me, right? Because in that peaceful kingdom, she has the freedom to frolic around in nature and enjoy the animals and art and the trees, and she's just running around naked. I guess I could see Hod in his library, stuck in a castle somewhere, perhaps, right? Because Gibara is at war. I could see him tucked away in a castle, probably wanting to go outside, but doesn't really get an opportunity to. I don't know. Maybe I'll think about that more. Maybe I'll think about that more. Awesome, possum. Zero says these lectures are perfectly matching the energies that you talked in your video yesterday about the winter solstice. I can feel it. Absolutely, absolutely. It's no coincidence, right, that we get into that chapter, and hell, even this chapter, 17. That's very much going to reflect the energies going on. Prince Cthulhu says going to war using intellect. Okay, yeah, that does add a dimension of it. I can see that. And as far as like the breaking down, I could see the scrutinizing of information, the breaking down of information, as opposed to the breaking down of like things. Upright. Why has it got to be upright? It has to be upright. Shiva meditating with his upright rod. Oh, that's a funny word. Curve said, I heard once Saturn is the general, Mars is the soldier carrying out. Now I would look at Mercury as the strategist. Yeah, I can see that. I can see that. Prince Cthulhu, when he said going to war using the intellect, I think I'll add that to my storehouse of images. The strategist. I typically don't see life in terms of war, but Ibara's got to be fighting something, got to be cutting something off. All right, that was wonderful. I learned a lot. Great to refresh my memory. I'm so lucky to be able to do this. So blessed and grateful. Because I get to dust off the last time I read the book and learn new things added upon what I already know. Swinging iron. Swinging iron. These are some funny phrases, man. All right. Well, that's it. Look back over it. I hope you highlighted some stuff. What was it? 31, 32, 33, and 34 was really good. 31 through 34 was really good. That might be something to read over again. Um, remember what you said as far as the polarities being different on different planes, right? And how male and female operate primarily through different polarities throughout the four worlds. Male is positive in the world of Asaya, female is negative in the world of Asaya, and that flips upside down on the astral plane. On the astral, male is negative, feminine. On the astral, female is positive, masculine. And it flips again on the mental plane, right? That's a very good thing to keep in mind, because that's something that's definitely going to come up in your Kabbalistic work. Framestar Film says when they open Parliament each new year in the UK, they knock the door with a black rod before its doors are opened. Hmm. Makes me think about how they also break the champagne glass on a new boat. I mean, hell, popping champagne, that's a very Chokmah thing to do, anyways. Curve says Dion says things in ways that just penetrate the mind. Swinging iron. Why does it have to be swinging? It could be doing anything else. Oh, highlighted my love for this group. Swinging iron. Remember, the grade of initiation corresponding to Chokmah is said to be that of mages. The magical weapons assigned to that grade are the phallus and the inner robe of glory. That is a hilarious sentence, man. All right, good stuff. Good stuff. Good stuff. Mm. I think we're alone now. Do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do. All right, are we finished or are we done here? Because I got no more talking. All three of y'all. Rack 'em. Rack bar. Allah! Ah, rack bar. Mm. Come on, this mouse. I think it's time for a new mouse. Dion is fond of the double entendre, right? Full moon. Strength, valor, force, prowess, mightiness of God, victory, oppression, judicial power. Gibera. The fifth Sephiroth, considered feminine and passive in traditional Qabalah. What's up with that? Y'all cowards don't even smoke crack. Damn it. Now I've got to listen to that song. Thanks a lot, I win. All right. I think that's about it. Have a great night. Enjoy the rest of your full moon. Check out the video that I just did before this about the 1212 portal. You're going to need it. You're going to need it. All right. That's it. Thank you for being here. This is TK Trav, aka Travis Magus, here with LVX777. I love you. Peace.